Yes, indeed, y'all. Peace, love, and light. It is your brother Blue, reporting live and direct to you. No Delays TV here with my co-host,
Brother Red Pill reporting live and direct. Peace and love to the family. Peace and love to the universe. Welcome to another historic episode of KTL Radio 2020.
Yes, indeed. Welcome back for another historic episode. It is an honor to be in your presence, family. What an epic past few days we have experienced. But nonetheless, here we are. All right. We have a wonderful surprise in store for you this evening. Okay. In KTL TV, KTL Media tradition, we are opening up the floor to bring forward another one of our esteemed alumni in our KTL University series. This brother is a scholar like no other. Our brother, your brother, Dr. Wesley Muhammad, will be in the building.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, indeed. We're going to be getting into a plethora of topics. The atmosphere is definitely right to delve into the body of work that our brother has put together. Definitely, I think every title that the brother put out, from the GMO weed to the effeminization of Black men and Black women through hip hop and other means of media, the scientific research that the brother has done on the Black God Protocol, this and other things are very prevalent in today's time. So, just prepare yourselves, y'all. All right. Do you have any announcements? Do you want to make any announcements?
Absolutely. We definitely want to announce that July 25th and 26th, the weekend of July 25th and 26th, me and AA Rashid will be in Atlanta, Georgia at Cafe 640, which is in the west end of Atlanta, doing a presentation titled Black Matter Timing, right? Myth Decoded, right? We're going to be defragmenting and decoding and unpacking a lot of the mythos, and also simultaneously speaking of the importance of mythos on psychological development, in particular Black male psychology, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we will be delving into that and continuing a very timely conversation that was started, from like my IG live going in, and on Black Magic 363 when we did the Black is King decoded, you know what I'm saying, the other day. So shout out to Brother Rich. We'll definitely be doing a follow-up on Brother Rich's channel in time for the presentation, as well as here on Know the Ledge. We're gonna have some definite surprise guests for that event, and the lecture will be Saturday and the workshop will be Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say shout out to Queen Afua and her entire team. I did a presentation with her today on Instagram, on her IG live, and it was dope. I want to remind the family, because I had to revisit it, and this ain't nothing but prophetic bars in here. I have a chapter, the 44th chapter in Planet Hill. I recommend the family, if they have not got this book from Queen Afua yet.
Mm-hmm.
It's a consortium of the of the healing community, mainly that she has relationships with, and we all submitted a passage. So this is mine. Mine is Purge and Purify. See what I'm saying? Bars. So I got an opportunity to get back in that bag today, and pretty much compel me to get back to the writing. I'm writing 3 books at this time, so it was exciting and interesting to really hear my words. I wrote my passage 5 years ago when Hillary and Ronald Donald was locked horns for the presidency down the final stretch. So it probably was around this time. My Facebook reminder also reminded us that 2 years ago is when we actually, well, a year ago today is when we were with the Shifters, right? That journey in Brooklyn. And a few days prior to that, maybe yesterday or the day after before that, we had got the Sonnet Awards. So Facebook was so kind to remind me of that particular event. You know what I mean? That was legendary in 2018. Um, yeah, so this thing comes full circle and serendipitously enough, you know what I'm saying? It all comes to this particular point, you know, where we are now welcoming back our brother, Dr. Wesley Muhammad. If the family was not able to catch the minister this past weekend, you know, we highly recommend that you go on YouTube and look at the Criterion, a very timely message for the ages, a paradigm shifting message, as I pointed out on my Instagram, and everybody concurred that when the minister finished speaking, we got downpour, right? Torrential rain started raining, not only in Atlanta, because
Many.
when I put it, yeah, when I put it up on Instagram, people from many places concurred that the same thing happened in their cities, right?
That's a fact.
So how can you account for that, right? And these are those times, and as much as people, right, they want to attribute everything in the year 2020 to astronomical, unexplainable, supernatural events, right? But the people you think is regular, right? But nature and the news and the environment and everything else is unexplainable.
Mm-hmm.
But the people, you think the people is regular. No, the people are also part of a very, you know, historical, unexplainable time. And I only say unexplainable for the people who need explanations. Those with eyes shall see and those with ears shall hear. So these times have always been spoken of. And these were the people who have always been prepared for this particular time. You feel me?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely want to add on that it's very interesting how, you know, the planets move. It's very interesting how the
Oh,
perception.
yeah. We ain't even going to talk about the planets this past weekend, but yeah, talk about it.
Yeah, let's touch on that. What I'm bringing up is the fact that Facebook reminded you that 2 years ago in Manhattan, right, the Symphony Center, we had the pleasure of witnessing our good brother, Dr. Wesley Muhammad, being honored at the Sonetta Awards, right?
Okay,
And
brother.
also,
Yeah.
yes, and the nation being represented and the new blood or the new voices or the new faces of the Nation of Islam was officially introduced to the world that day, because that was a national stage. We wasn't outside in the street, it wasn't somebody's room or whatever. It was on a national stage at that Symphony Hall at an award show. Dr. Wesley introduced the world to Rizza Islam, Brother Ben X, and 19 Keys, right?
Yes.
And I remember when the brothers came in the backstage when they first made their entrance. You know how the nation makes their entrance, right?
Yes.
So the fruit comes in before, you know, I'm talking about the fruit they're gonna come in before anybody comes in. You know that the nation is on their way in.
Yes.
And
Yes. Presence. Yes.
that was the first time I was able to see the brothers all together. Dr. Wesley, Brother Ben X, Riz, you know, all of the brothers. And it was a beautiful sight to see.
Yeah.
And soon after that, the paradigm shift is formed, right? And we all get to come together as a collective.
Now, I believe Brother Hafiz was there, Rising Power.
Minister, yes, indeed. He was there.
Was there as well. You know what I'm saying?
That's a fact.
Yes.
We're going to speak about Minister Hafiz tonight because we were in Long Island with him, with Rizza, with a few other brothers almost a year ago to July to right now. So the fact that we have Dr. Wesley with us tonight, that's something that we planned, you know, but we didn't plan it knowing that exactly 2 years ago, this was
That
taking place.
everything was aligned, right?
Exactly. So without any further ado, I'm going to open up and bring our good brother, the God. All right. Student minister, Dr. Wesley Muhammad. Welcome to the platform. Welcome back to the platform, rather. Peace, God.
Peace to the gods.
Peace.
Peace,
Peace to
Red
the God.
Pill, Blue Pill, man. I'm honored to be back on your powerful platform, man. You know,
sir.
you both dropped some very awesome jewels in this opening, man. And
Yes,
I remember that great evening at the Sonetto Awards. I have it over there.
Yeah.
I didn't toss it out. It means it has great value to me.
It
That's
does. Yeah.
With a Sonetto Award on that night. That was a great night. For all you, the peers dominated, if I recall correctly, dominated the Grammys, and well deservedly so.
You had to close it out rightfully.
Shout out.
You know, they say it's not how you start the race, it's how you finish it.
And
so
y'all wrong, man.
We closed that chapter out very strongly and very healthily, you know, and in the presence of the people who mattered, right? Because down the line, years later, these are the brothers and sisters that are very extremely relevant in a day and time when what you did 5 years ago don't mean anything.
That's real.
That's real. It's going to be hard to go back and say what you did in 2015 or 18. People are going to be like, what did you do in 2020, brother?
Right.
Where were you? Please show me footage. Like, you know, were you at Black Lives Matter rally in Chicago? Or were you at the, you know, were you at All Lives Matter?
Right. Or did you strategically avoid both super spreader events? We need to get to that too.
Exactly.
But shout out to Brother Ben, who was there. Shout out to Reza Islam, and may Allah be pleased with our great brother. The tremendous loss, Abdul Hafiz Muhammad.
Yes, indeed. The martyr.
The martyr.
Right?
Absolutely. Our martyr.
Our martyr. Right? That brother is dear to my heart. From Kevin Muhammad days. You know? So just to see his climbing, his evolution, you know.
And before that, I think it was True Mathematics, you know. Brother, he's the God body.
The God body.
God body.
Yeah, that he was rolling with True Islam.
Yeah.
I was talking to 19 Keys. We was in the gym with Minister Farrakhan's grandson, right? The legend. Yes, the legend. Who
shout out Brother Elijah Park.
The warrior. Yes, the warrior Elijah, who was getting us right. And we were going back in time, and we were going back in the whole conscious community timeline in the time capsule. And I was telling 19 Keys about the rise of True Islam. Right? True Islam, the disruptor. You know what I mean? I had to remind him because people don't remember those days and times because they probably weren't there, and this thing moves so fast that, you know, things get erased. But I was like, no, when True Islam came on the scene, he was an ultimate disruptor. And
I appreciate that, man. No, this is my first time hearing, you know. So
King Simon is in the building. He said, yes, look, hold on. We got stream, y'all. We can show you. King Simon, yes.
Peace, King Simon.
I remember when we didn't know what you looked like. We just heard that he was coming. They was like, niggas in Harlem was like, True Islam was coming. He's challenging the teachers. True Islam is coming.
Oh, wow. Look, man, those are great days. Those were great days. And I'm thankful that I was able to cut my teeth in that cipher. And so I tell everybody, you know, that cipher, that whole New York cipher has a tremendous lore, right?
Yeah.
But if you're not built for it, that set will eat you up and spit you out. And so that was a great, you know, training ground. I'm thankful I was able to successfully cut my teeth. In that cipher, man, I will always be thankful for them days.
I will always tell people, and you know, I'm unbiased because I had me and Blue, we had the you know, as Red and Blue Pill, we witnessed everything. So I give you the Jimmy Fly Snooker Award for coming in. No, you more like The Rock. You know what I'm talking about? You came in there, you got your belt, you was like, we're going to do movies now. No, I'm saying.
I couldn't linger. I wasn't going to loiter around.
Yeah.
I got to be honest with you. My intent was to come in, do what I needed to do, and then bail. Move on to my next assignment.
Right,
so
right.
I would never, if I were to rewrite my history, I would not rewrite it differently. I would not start someplace else. I'm happy that I started there.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Right.
I'm just saying on record,
I would do that all over again.
That's right. And I'm saying on record that you put in work, you stood on your 10 toes. You know, you left with a record that was very clean. You cleaned up a lot of the toxicity. You came in like Toxic Avengers and cleaned up some toxic people, and we're grateful.
That was my agenda. That was my agenda. That was my motivation. So I appreciate hearing this because, you know, we never built really on those days. So I don't know how, you know, I don't know what the legacy is. So
it will be. I think that you could see it today with the nation still being a shining beacon. You know, there were factions in that community that wanted to bury it, to throw dirt, you know what I'm saying, and do harm and damage, you know, to the legacy of an institution.
Goofy smacking was the order of the day. The cipher I stepped into was a cipher where Koofy smacking dominated. So I came in to smack the Koofy smackers. That was my the smack the Koofy smack.
That's right. So when I was telling your story, right, I was telling it in a corrective way where it was like, no, understand what the impact is, understand what the disruption was about, understand what he did for the nation. You dig what I'm saying? Understand that he stood up at a time when if somebody sat down, it probably they would have shuttered the doors. You know, this was a different day and time. So I'm just saying, because we're gonna talk about a lot tonight. That you know, salute for the work that you did over those years.
Thank you.
Salute for the pivot, right? Because everything is in the pivot, right, Blue? Mm-hmm. You could stay on a ship too long and sink with it, or you could stay stuck in one. You know, you could become comfortable with YouTube views, right? And just dopamine being released every time one of your trailers uploads, where you know it's like you know those build-up trailers, like, coming up the right corner, you know, Smack DVD. Yeah. So,
man, I appreciate that. Thank you, guys, man. And I have to say this as we pivot out of this discussion. Word is bomb. See, when I entered that cipher, I encountered something I never seen before. Because you mentioned the word trailer. Y'all made video trailers to these debates like they were cinematic productions. And y'all were the first ones I saw do that. And I was like, oh, wow. And so people now, the young ones, have no idea what it was like then, because that was the birth of the debate trailers, right?
Right.
And y'all, the way y'all put it together was hot. So that just raised the ante with the whole scenario, man. Because it was now the video competition, and it was merciless. So that raised the ante on that whole cipher.
Still sharp and still.
Y'all were the kings of it.
Still sharp and still.
Kings of it.
Indeed.
Thank you, God.
So I want to dive right into a hot button topic, right? Timing is perfect. You know, there's a fire going on right now on Twitter. Twitter is ablaze. I study the trending topics on Twitter a lot because I'm understanding the power of Twitter. I didn't understand it years ago, right? So Deshaun Jackson was trending yesterday, right? He was like #2. And then when you click on the name to see, hey, what are they saying about good old Deshaun? You enter into an echo chamber, right? And if you don't know, and if you're not solid in your foundation, and if you're not secure in your faith, you will enter an echo chamber and get completely compromised by all of the tweets that people might be saying. So if they're tearing down Deshaun Jackson, oh, you are anti-Semite, you are a hater, you're making all of the things that Black Lives Matter do not worth anything.
Right. Right.
And then today, later on that night, Farrakhan became the trending topic. And the reason why it became the trending topic is because so many people were saying about Deshaun Jackson, yeah, he put up a Hitler quote, but he also has Farrakhan on his page. It's just the fact that they're mentioning him in their tweets that he's trending. It's not that they're talking about him. They're just talking about him about Deshaun. But they won't say anything about what he said. They're not saying anything about the criterion. They're not addressing anything. They're utilizing a pinata, which is Deshaun Jackson. They picked one out of the bunch. Similar to what would take place when they would pick weak ones amongst us to do what? To traumatize the rest of us, right. To put the rest of us in place with a public lynching.
Right. Right.
So,
no, I would say that our brother Deshaun Jackson is not one of the weak ones. The fact that he had the strength to take the stand that he took to post what he posted after Chelsea got in so much trouble for sharing a clip from the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan. I'm sure Brother Deshaun Jackson saw that, yet he still had the strength and the courage to publicly support the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan. And so I want to say that the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan supports Brother Deshaun Jackson, and the Nation of Islam supports Brother Deshaun Jackson. We pray that the Black community rallies around our brother. Why? Because we have to send the strong message that white folks, you cannot pick who our friends are. Damn that. That is done with. That's old Negro stuff. Ain't no Negroes around no more. So you cannot pick and choose who we put on our social media. So
look at the analogy, right? Look at the analogy. People were willing to forgive, right? Europeans that have done atrocities to Black folks all of these years because they apologized, and Black people opened their doors and allowed all sorts of allies in. Everybody got a cosign but Minister Farrakhan.
That is right.
Every single person got atonement, got an annulment,
That's
got
right.
it this and got it that, right?
Right.
They said we're gonna bury the hatchet on this shit. Let David Duke in, let this person, and we're gonna
Right.
They apologize. Mitch McConnell, they apologized for everybody. Rush Limbaugh got on the Breakfast Club. Everybody, but they still said the one standard that we're still holding. You know, y'all can kumbaya. We're gonna take Aunt Jemima off the.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
we willing to do anything, but
Right.
allow Farrakhan to be your friend.
Right. Because Farrakhan ain't apologizing. If Farrakhan is ever found in error, he would apologize. But Farrakhan is unapologetic because he is unerrant. And this is what they hate. So they still, the Quran says, you know, it is only that Satan called and you came. Satan doesn't have power over us in 2020. He does not.
That's a fact.
If we buckle out of a fear that really cannot be realized. Satan does not have the power to break strong Black men and women today. Look at Sister Tamika Mallory. They did everything they can to make her break, and she did not. And that sister is a great example. She isn't a flag-waving Black Muslim. She doesn't subscribe to all of what we represent, but that didn't matter to her. She was not going to let others determine who her GOAT is.
Right. It did not deter her.
Jackson is not weak. I pray that he stays strong, and I pray that the Black community helps strengthen his backbone to know that Satan ain't got no power over you. Not in 2020.
Definitely. The brother Stephen Jackson.
Shout out to the Black guy, Stephen Jackson.
Yes.
Blossoming in front of our eyes, right? You know, when they say that tragedy has a way of, igniting something in someone else, they could be the catalyst to, make him a different type of person. I see that with Stephen Jackson.
I do too.
Yeah, that death of Twin, his doppelganger, who he's quantumly entangled to, giving him a whole new lease on what he know as life. He doesn't see life the same anymore, and he doesn't want to, he doesn't want to let that brother down. Because if, for those of us who heard footage of the brother speaking and we heard his thoughts, he had a very George Floyd had a mind that would be considered a woke mind. So Stephen Jackson, who's from the trenches, right? He has that street foundation, right? What that prepares you to do what? To have no fear when you do what? You do what Farrakhan told you. What did he say? He said, if you know the truth, right?
Tell it.
Tell it.
That's right.
On the mountaintop, right?
Right.
Tell the truth and shame the devil. Right.
What'd you say, Blue?
Tell the truth and shame the devil. Like our nan is talking.
That's right. Just the same thing. He's not. It's a old adage, right? It's you could translate it in multiple languages, right? And it says the same thing, that you will be rewarded internally. Your DNA knows when you lying. Your DNA knows when you're scared. Your DNA knows when you're not standing on it.
Right.
So if you stand on it and you lose your head top, you're a martyr. You're still a legend. We'll ride for you. And according to the spirit realm, you're riding with us. You're clearing the way.
Right. There's a space prepared for you.
The space is prepared for you. So
Coward died 1,000 deaths. You know what I'm saying?
So if they make you sit down to use the bathroom in front of everybody, right, for a bag, to play in a league that you don't even know is finna start this year,
a depreciating bag, right? For an uncertain
bag, you could have sat this one out with
right.
Get down. They signing Kaepernick to Disney.
Right.
Look, man, get on that train, my brother.
Right. Now, that's important. The hit that the NBA is taking, like it's never took before. Now, note that the NBA was the first to shock the world by canceling this season over COVID, and it was in February.
They started
February 23rd. The Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan from Detroit announced that how his grandson of tremendous talent was whiteballed by the NBA because his name is Farrakhan. It was all of his talent. The NBA didn't want the name Farrakhan beaming from the speakers. And so when he put that out so publicly, it wasn't a month later that COVID hit so hard and the NBA had to cancel its season. We've never seen anything like that before.
I just want to put on the record that began what we know as the spiral for the historians and for people who are going to record time. The people, right? Yeah, there was news reports and you'll find articles and everything when they tell the story. They say that they started the madness started in January. No, the day after the NBA canceled is when black people took it serious and the conversation changed from this don't got nothing to do with us to what the hell is
snap.
Right? And this is how they clip their feet though. This is how they clip the feet of young black America. They canceled March Madness the next day. It was over after that. This initiated March Madness. And when it canceled the sports, this initiated March Madness, and then the games began. The real game is Event 201, right? Coach Bill Gates.
That's right.
And Fauci, right? Fauci's running the offense.
That's right.
And they acting like, and then Trump, who's doing a great job in theater, right? He's doing an awesome job in the realm of entertainment politics. This nigga, he's
the presidency will never be the same.
Ever.
Never has the presidency been so entertaining to me.
You gotta have a will to be
around the same time they got Weinstein out of the way. So once the biggest Hollywood producer is removed, the world becomes a stage. So they're like, yeah, we're doing open air Hollywood screening. You don't got to go to the movie for the blockbuster. It's on your TV now.
Right.
Yo, he shows up for roles on Twitter and then plays them. You understand? So he shows up as the bad guy or the good guy, right? To Bill Gates. Right? Look how this happened. Bill Gates, Mr. Xbox, right? Dude who,
That's right.
Windows 84, right? Mr. Windows, Xbox. I mean, he was the guy. He was the good guy. And Trump was the bad guy. 30 days later, he's the bad guy and Trump is the good guy. Right. Look at this and look at this theater. Pay attention to what is taking place. This is all media sponsored, right? If people don't know that he works in cohorts with the media, he had an executive meeting with them, I think the day after he got elected, right? In Trump Tower to let him know what's going down. He's a media darling. He brings in so much money. If you're in the game of advertising and if you understand stocks and he brings so much money to these people who know what's going on, who are sitting in theater and they're just reading tweets, listening to dog whistles, reading the Wall Street Journal, and becoming, you know, millionaires upon millionaires upon billionaires. You know, this is. I mean, look at the stock of the vaccination drug that just went sky high. What if you were reading one of these newspapers weeks ago where they were hinting that was going to be the actual stock that was going to get rent and whatnot and was going to boom? What if you knew about Amazon? What if you knew about Zoom? Zoom is a unicorn right now. You know, when they were selling off all of the stocks, nobody is telling the people what are the new stocks that everybody went and bought to make the market jump. You know, they bought into vaccination stocks. They bought into
biotech, right?
AI. You know, because what's about to take place, they bought into big data because guess what's about to happen? Tracking, tracing, testing. It's the most data ever collected on the world because everybody's finna get that, right? The 3 T's, tracking, tracing, testing. If data is worth more than oil, right? And they're about to get your real data. They're going to be tracing you and they're going to know your DNA. They're going to know your genome. They're going to know all of that. They're going to be able to run it through the quantum and know if you're a threat. They're going to precog. They're going to know if you have ghost DNA. They're going to know if you're related to the Dogon. All of these things. And then tracing you, I know what store you go to so I can sell at the advertisers because he likes to go to, you know, Payless Shoes. You know, they're tracing you. They know your every move. Everyone's phone already has it on the automatic. Like when T-Mobile and everybody stopped working, the next day they had the COVID tracing on your phone.
That's right. That's real talk.
So I don't mean to cut your wisdom, but the 3 T's.
You flowing. I'm listening and I'm learning.
The 3 T's precede 5G, right? The 5G rollout comes as a result of the 3 T's. In order to trace, in order to track, you're going to need the 5G network. Why? Because that's what China has. It's over. Like they already did it. It's already done. So they're going to implement that because it's already been implemented, and they're going to utilize this pandemic, this phase 2 paranoia, to say we gotta have to usher in this next step of technology, AI, you know, all of these things. Industry 4.0 is here. So, you know, and it's all an investment. Like you see, they showed when a black man gets killed and remember, black people die every day, right? People are getting killed by the cops every day. But advertisers know when George Soros buys out a 48-hour media block or a 24-hour media block, that story is going to be a story that it's going to be something that they're going to be able to
be a run on the bank, right?
Going to be a run, you know,
a bull run, right? Yeah. So,
yes. No, that was deep, and I think you're absolutely right, Red. You know, there's a lot going on with the pandemic, rightly so called. It was planned, you know, on January 10th. Dr. Anthony Fauci.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Let me be more specific. January 10th, 2017.
Okay.
Dr. Anthony Fauci lifted the ban and provided the first set of funds for gain of function research. Gain of function research is science done increasing the pathogenicity of viruses, making harmless viruses harmful, or making harmful viruses deadly and more transmissible. It's science done to make a virus gain a function. That's gain of function.
Okay.
Virology. There was a ban on that research. President Obama banned that research in 2014. And the specific ban was directed at gain of function research done on the influenza virus, MERS, and SARS. Specifically, all gain of research science done on those viruses were banned in 2014 on January 10th, 2017. Dr. Anthony Fauci, whose National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease is publicly known as a health institution, but since 2003, it was the literal proxy of the biowarfare establishment. In 2003, the United Fort Detrick, Fauci's office was relocated to Fort Detrick, Maryland. So he is the most of the biodefense money comes to and through Anthony Fauci's National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease. But I'm gonna let January 10th, 2017, Anthony Fauci lifts the ban and starts funding this gain of function research.
I remember seeing
January 12th, Anthony Fauci is at Georgetown University. 2 days after he started funding the science that produces monster viruses, that produces monster SARS, that produces monster MERS, that produces monster influenza. 2 days after he restarted funding that science, he was at Georgetown University and said, oh no, the new administration, the Trump administration, newly elected, they will have a surprise outbreak. 2 days after he started funding the production of super viruses, the super virus emerged, SARS-2, the result of gain of function research. It was gain of function research that produced SARS-2. Now, I'm not a Trump fan, but we have to be fair. And let me say this. There's so much speculation surrounding COVID-19, this pandemic. Since the beginning of the pandemic, red pill and blue pill, all of us have been wanting to know, what is this thing? What's going on? And we didn't know because it was new. And most of us were blindsided by those who planned this event 201. The rest of us were blindsided. And so we all have been trying to figure out what this is. And we should. Inquiring minds want to know. Inquiring minds should seek to find out. And so since March till now, we've all have done some research. We're listening. We're trying to figure out, trying to put the pieces together. Most of this time I've been quiet because I don't like to speak out of ignorance. I don't like to speak prematurely. And I knew that when this thing hit, I didn't know what the hell this thing was. So far be it from me to come out speculating. And I had no basis to speculate. So I was silent. But I was studying because my inquiring mind wanted to know. So I produced a 200-page report on COVID, the origin of COVID-19. 200 pages and 700, technically 699 footnotes, because it's not enough for you to send me a video, and everybody sends me all of the videos and I watch them.
I get them too.
I'm seeing somebody sit there talking. They may be qualified, they may be credentialed scientists, so I give ear. But Andrew Kaufman, Dr. Shiva, Dr. Judy Mikovits, and all of Dr. Buttar, and all of them, I watched all of them. But it ain't enough. My inquiring mind needs more than somebody on a video talking, regardless of their credentials. I need to know the source of what they're saying. So I say all that to say this. Reproduce the report. A pestilence from heaven in the laboratory of Satan. The subtitle, The Origin of COVID-19, How It Became a Black Epidemic. So I say to those who sent me all of these videos, I got them, I watched them. Now the people in their videos, send them my report. I hope that doesn't come off away, but I'm making an important point. My inquiring mind is hard to satisfy. I need verifiable data. And so I say that to frame something. President Trump, for all of his foolery, the most unbothered pathological liar that has ever sat in that seat. Now, all presidents lie, but every other president tried to be discreet. But President Trump is so unbothered being a pathological liar. But he was blindsided by this pandemic, like the rest of us. A very important moment came March 20th. A very interesting briefing, White House briefing.
Televised, right.
You had Anthony Fauci on one side of President Trump, and you have Pompeo on the other side of President Trump. Now, what President Trump introduced Mike Pompeo, brought him to the mic. President Trump said referred to Mike Pompeo's deep state department, not State Department, deep state department. And when Mike Pompeo came to the mic, he referred to COVID-19 he referred to the pandemic as a live exercise, Event 2-1. Event 2-1 was a table talk exercise that moved to a live exercise, and Pompeo said it on national television, and this President Donald Trump in the wings, angry, he says this: I wish y'all would have told us. That was a very critical moment where the secretary of the deep state left the cat out the bag that Event 201 has now transitioned into a live exercise, and the President of the United States was not informed about it. He heard it when we heard it. So we are witnessing a war of President Trump and his allies versus the deep state. So he was blindsided by the pandemic. He's at war with the intelligence community. And after his survival of the impeachment hearings, he focused his hostility on the intelligence community. So he has been since February at all-out war with his intelligence community. And it's what we document in here is that it was a global intelligence operation. We call it a Anglo-American intelligence operation that released the virus. The White House was in the dark. However, and I'll close on this note, excuse me. Allah says in the Quran, and you did not kill them, but it was Allah who killed them. And you threw not when you threw, but it was Allah who threw. So the humans were throwing stones with their own hands. But Allah says it was not you who threw, it was I who threw with your hand. So the Anglo-American intelligence community thought they threw this virus, but in the Jews' plan, and Allah plans, and Allah is the best of planners. This is a virus that is a pestilence from heaven in the laboratory of Satan. I just had to say that in this case, President Trump was blindsided. He's using it. He's doing what he can to get his hands on it to ensure his reelection, because they had hoped to use this to sink his reelection. And so you have a number of players in this game.
Right.
But ultimately, it's a divine chess game between Allah and Satan.
Yes.
Both making moves with this virus.
Yeah, I had, I was reminding the family on this platform since March. I had got a call from the continent, and there was a committee of traditional elders that are part of spiritual systems, and they all convened and got some information, and it was presented to me through another individual. And what the individual told me is that, according to their consultation with spirit, they said that, man has a hand. They said there's many hands in the pot. You feel me? And this is something.
That's an accurate description.
Yeah, the man has his hand in, but, Creator also is utilizing it, you know what I mean, to get some necessary things done. As you said, man plans, but Allah is the best of planners. I saw, I hope I pronounced the brother's name right, Minister Tony, right?
Abdul Malik.
Yes.
Abdul Malik Saeed. Minister Abdul Malik Saeed.
Yes. The brother was on Nick Cannon's Cannon class, and then we saw Criterion. In both of their presentations, they spoke of biblical implications for this particular time period and the different things that we see in terms of pestilence, in terms of famine, in terms of, rumors of war, what have you, to remind the family, because people may have forgotten. January 2nd, we did start this year out with rumors of war, with them, hitting the Iranian general. And there's many other signs that go along with famine as well. I mean, to go along with the quote unquote signs of the plague or what have you, to speak about this apocalyptic time. And, as a brother 19 Keys reminds us, the definition of an apocalypse is just an uncovering, right? And in time when we synchronize this year to say that this is 2020 and you should have perfect vision, or your observational lens should be one in which you can see through something then something has to be uncovered for you to see through that which you were looking at previously, but you couldn't penetrate to the core. So once we, as the minister said, once we turn water into wine, right? And the turning of water into wine comes by way of interpretation of the word, right? Once we're not just reiterating the word, but we are interpreting it and we are uncovering the meaning of it, then our people can actually see it for what it is.
That's right.
You know, I want to know, what is your take on this? You know, do you see this as a broader scriptural plan that has been spoken about since the beginning of, you know, I don't want to say time, but the beginning of when people started being introduced to these particular doctrines in Texas?
Yes, sir. Thank you for that question. On May 10th, the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan said these words. He said, judgment is not approaching. Judgment has arrived. We are not in a state where all of what we've been reading about is still a day or two away. And we have time to get our ish together. Judgment is now here. And this thing, so what we documented before COVID-19 was a black epidemic. It was a Jewish epidemic.
Yes, it was.
The original super spreader in this country
Yes.
was a Jew. Do you remember?
Rockland County, New Rochelle.
New Rochelle.
New Rochelle.
The Young Israel Synagogue of New Rochelle was the epicenter of the containment zone.
That's
Yes, it was.
That was the first hot spot in this country.
Yes, it
The
was.
American pandemic did not originate in Washington State or California. The American pandemic originated in New York. 65% of all of the viral genomes in America trace back to the New York epicenter. And the epicenter of the epicenter is a Jewish synagogue in New Rochelle.
Can I ask you a question?
Wait, let me. They just popped up in the news the other day because they are resisting contact tracing. So now New York has to resort to subpoenas, right, for this particular community, but the news won't report them in their name. They just say a community in Rockland County. This was the same community that was responsible for the measles outbreak in 2017, or was it 2018?
20. That's the question I was going to ask. And as a result of that measles outbreak, right? What happened in New York City? What got pushed in New York City? Mandatory vaccinations.
Mandatory vaccinations.
And it was attached to that Rockland County measles outbreak, right? So now we got mandatory vaccinations are around the corner, allegedly. And once again, this community is the culprit. And is this not the same community where they said allegedly a black man stabbed up most of the multiple members on New Year's Day?
But look, you can even go deeper. The patient zero,
yes,
responsible for that New Rochelle hotspot, an attorney, Lawrence Graubucks, his daughter went to a Jewish school in the Bronx. The Bronx first hotspot was the Jewish family of this New Rochelle Jew. Now, the media This was in March. The media in March, when this Jewish hotspot was percolating, the media was eyeballing the public housing of the Bronx and the blacks congested in the public housing in the Bronx. In March, the press was saying that the public housing of Black Bronx, 90% Black, the public housing is the next ticking time bomb for the coronavirus. But the only ones who had the coronavirus in the Bronx was this Jewish family. And then by May, Bronx, Black Bronx, was the epicenter of the virus in New York. It was migrated from Jewish New Rochelle to poor Black Bronx. And we documented it was not done accidentally. It was done deliberately. So the subtitle is How It Became a Black Pandemic. COVID-19 was deliberately migrated into Black America.
I just want to add on two things. That the beginning of the year started with a real heavy fear campaign that was initiated by the Jewish community to the point where they did a march, right, against the attacks that they were saying that they were coming under. They were starting all the way in December. Then coupled with the stabbing that took place in Rockland County,
which they may very well have orchestrated.
Right. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Because it was extremely sketchy.
The so-called Hebrew Israelite.
And I didn't, yes, because the Rockland County incident, it came after the Hoboken or the Jersey City shootout where it was played. No. Remember how they blatantly lied? This started out as a drug deal going bad that was in a cemetery. It spilled out into Jersey City where hostages were taken inside of a kosher deli. A shootout ensued, and it was said that the police was in there drilling their own people. The police they shot about 200 rounds. The story gets flipped to where there was a Hebrew Israelite and his lady, right? And they pulled up in a van and went inside of a bakery and started a murder spree. And they never showed you why they would say that these people were even Hebrew Israelites, right? There was no garb. You know, I think they might have said that there was a book or something. I don't know how they came to that conclusion, but what I do,
they said they were Hebrew Israelites that listened to messages of Minister Farrakhan, and I don't know nan Hebrew Israelite to listen to Farrakhan. Let's keep that real.
That's how you know.
Let's keep that real. They should.
That's how you know it was a Russian bot.
Hebrew Israelite to listen to the Honorable Mr. Lord Farrakhan.
I'm like, that's a Russian bot. Yeah. That's like saying a zebra with spots.
Yeah.
So it was like, yo, a Hebrew Israelite that wears the fez and listen to Minister Farrakhan was at this shootout.
Right, well, they orchestrated that.
It was a beyond an orchestrate, because this is how you know when these things are orchestrated. Because orchestrating propaganda and stories of orchestrated natures, they enter your subconscious. It's inception. It's about planting a story, which is like malware, and then moving on to something, a newer narrative, staying with the narrative, but attaching yourself to a real story, and then building out on that. And then they'll never revisit and go back to the initial story, but it's already implanted in your subconsciousness. That's right.
That's right. Job is done. Absolutely.
Yeah. Because real stories that are real juicy, they stay on top of those. And remember, the media is run by who? So when they have the white supremacists do these quote unquote mass shootings inside of synagogues, the media news cycle got off of that immediately and jumped on something that Trump did. Right. Why is that? Right? Why not focus on the sleeper cells? Why not break down what the hard drive of this man's computer contained? Why not give us his book list? Give us his library card. None of these, no kind of data, none of that ever surfaces. They don't tell you about his browsing activity, but let somebody copper tone do something. Right. They're like, oh, look at his profile. They'll tell you all of his friends.
That's
real.
You know what I mean? That's real.
It's spreading your data all on Reddit.
Every social media group, you know, and we get hijacked into 100 groups, but they will have a quote from every social media group that he was hijacked into.
Yo, he was down with the Nibiru,
the planetary Nibiru. That's real.
The Space Force, Moorish Resurrection, the Black Zionist, Israelite.
So let's put it out there now. Whatever comes out, I've been hijacked into so many groups. I don't know what I'm a part of. But let's come out some crazy Nibiru planetary group. Then Dr. Wesley Muhammad, student minister Dr. Wesley Muhammad. I was like, what the fuck?
Yo, I don't even know.
Don't be surprised.
Facts. I'm the CEO of Mad Groups. Left-handed, polygamous,
that's real.
Told Egyptian dripping niggas. Like,
that's real. They come out that half of them were created by Russia. Okay, well.
That's a Russian bot. Yeah, I've been hijacked at mad Facebook groups. And the groups be large numbers. So the data, like the way that they went in New York City, because I put up a picture because my master teachers told us that when the Daily News and the New York Post give you the front cover, pay attention. So it said the year of fear, right? On the front cover of the Post, and it tied into all of the anti-Semitic rhetoric, right? And we know that fear is an energy, and we know that vampires are real, and we know that Luciferians, right? And people have other names for them. I call them that because there's a book that Bobby Hemmett put out that he edited, and it's about the Luciferians, and it explains how these people feed off of energy. The strongest energy that they feed off, right? Light. Yeah, the most delectable, because you speak about the delectable Negro, correct?
Absolutely.
And now in the community, you know, the word adrenochrome is trending, right? It's something that everybody understands. So the concept of feeding off of fear, feeding off of trauma, empowering oneself off of pain and suffrage, right? Being able to broadcast a lynching live, or being able to put a lynching in the quote unquote social media networks, right? And being able to feed off of that outrage, and being able to feed off of the data that's created as a result of that outrage. Because people don't talk about how these people get rich off of fake Negro outrage and people's quote unquote emotional output on the social media networks by way of big data, right? It's lucrative. So somebody said they could even feed on you in the astral realm. So when I started to see people of a certain background begin to utilize the fear energy very heavily, and I'm like, this is around a year of their quote unquote Messiah's return, right? Because nothing has happened haphazardly. I'm paying attention. And then COVID happened. And now you come with the research, and the family is asking where could they get that research as well. I want to throw it in there.
So the report we're going to upload and make available next week.
Okay.
On our site, you can get it at, you can download it at drwesley.online, drwesley.online. Please subscribe to the website. We prepared it for and presented it to the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan. And next week, we are going to, inshallah, make the report available to the public.
Okay. Let me spell out that website. What is it again?
Dr. Wesley, WESLEY .online.
Okay, I got you. I'm gonna throw it right.
.online.
All right, so bookmark that, family. I'm gonna throw it right there. Dr. Wesley .online. Bookmark that, and when that information drops, spread it like a rumor, like he said. Send it to everybody who sends you the videos and says in big caps, "Attention, attention!"
Right.
Please share. They're gonna take this down. This is the most important video ever.
Right.
And you're like, wait a minute.
Right.
That video was fear-based.
Right.
That video could have been controlled opposition. That video didn't necessarily come from somebody that's trusted in the community. Not to take away the information, because I've been enlightened, I've been entertained, and I've been updated to a lot of things through YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and from videos from people who are considered allies, and from individuals like Dr. Butter. Is that his name?
Butar.
There's a plethora of individuals in the social media age.
Can I speak on that video, the pandemic video that you're referencing?
Yes.
Because your comments, in my opinion, are appropriate. Now, the pandemic video, I think it was up for maybe 72 hours. It got 8 million views in that time, and then YouTube and Facebook took it down for violating COVID-19 misinformation.
The fact finding.
Now that video, you know, we shared it, the conscious community, we got excited about it, and it was not a bad video, but like Dr. Shiva, that so excited so many of us in the so-called conscious community who wanted immediately an exotic explanation to what was going on. So Dr. Shiva, the Indian politician,
with the bundle.
Now, but the film Plandemic also had a political agenda. The film Plandemic, while it had good jewels in it, I appreciated Dr. Mikovich's comments. I got Dr. Mikovich's books.
Facts.
I'm not a video man. I'm a book and document man. So I have a book. But that video, Plandemic, while it had good jewels in it, it was very deceptive, because the point of Plandemic was to pin the pandemic on China. Make China the villain versus the victim. Let's be real clear. Even if the virus, the first virus, there were two.
Yes.
The virus that erupted in Wuhan is not the virus that struck Iran and then exploded in Europe. Even if the virus that struck Wuhan came out of the Wuhan Institute of Virology, I'm doubtful that this particular virus was present in the WIV. I believe the greater evidence suggests to me that it was in the possession of Dr. Xi Jinping's boss, Peter Daszak, an American, a British American white man. But I get to that. But this is the point. Just say hypothetically that the virus was in the WIV, the Wuhan Institute of Virology, before it was in the wet market. That would still make the Wuhan virus an American virus, because the Wuhan Institute of Virology is almost totally an American institution. The staff of the Wuhan Institute of Virology, they learned their virology in Texas.
Facts.
The funding of not just the institute itself, the WIV, but its mother institution, the Chinese Academy of Sciences. Its funding came from America. The viruses that were experimented with at the WIV were American procured viruses. So the Wuhan Institute of Virology, from beginning to end, is an American institution in the city of Wuhan. So if that virus was released from that institution, that still makes it an American virus.
It's an American export.
The pandemic was determined to make the victim the villain, and the villain unidentified.
What is your research going to the Wuhan military games that took place in November? There's been reports that could have been a super spreader event. That was the event that America won 0 medals at. And when you look at all of the other military games that take place every 4 years, they were always either number 1 or 2. But I think they won 0 gold medals. That, not 0 medals, but they were definitely underperforming. There's no footage on it. It's a very mystery type of event. And it's been said that either the virus could have been transported there, or the spreading could have took place where the different countries, because all of the countries that were participating are the countries that experienced, like you said, the first spike before it became COVID, when it was Corona. It became COVID after, I believe it began to ravage Italy, the same place where the patron saint of pandemic name was Saint Corona.
Yeah, the first place that I saw it, I believe it was February 19th, when they identified the 44 Americans on a cruise ship off of the coast of Japan. Right? At least that's the day that I noticed they started calling it COVID-19. You feel me?
So yeah, absolutely. So the question about the Wuhan military games, I have a chapter tackling that question. And so I would say, so in my research, in my lab, deep in my lab, going into it with no presuppositions, because I, like the rest of it, I ain't know shit. Excuse me. I ain't know shit.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have any presuppositions. I'm trying to figure out what is going on. And so in that process, from beginning to now, my thinking on the Wuhan military games 2019, it's gone through evolution.
Yeah.
So at first, because I know gain of function virology on SARS-1 was conducted at that American institution in Wuhan, the Wuhan Institute of Virology. For a while, my assumption was that the virus was there in Wuhan.
Mm-hmm.
A prototype virus was produced in Chapel Hill, North Carolina,
Mm-hmm.
in 2015. And that prototype virus was transferred to Wuhan. So Wuhan Institute of Virology had a number of viruses. And so Razor's Law suggested that, well, the easiest route, where the virus is already in Wuhan, those American operatives could have released it. So the Wuhan games would not have necessarily been the entry point for the virus.
Yeah.
The athletes could have been the first guinea pigs of the virus, but my thinking evolved from that when I realized that, by all accounts, I'm convinced this virus wasn't in the lab at the time.
Mm.
And so then the question becomes, how was the virus that was, this is how it worked. This was the operation that we documented.
Mm-hmm.
Peter, so everybody focuses on, and the film Plandemic focuses on the Chinese scientist, Dr. Shi Zhen Li, so-called Batwoman, because she was over the BL4, Biosafety Lab 4 of the Wuhan Institute of Virology, where that type of science was done. She was over the lab. The Western media makes her the villain. Fox News says she gave birth to this monster. That is wrong, wrong, wrong. Dr. Shi Zhen Li was the employee of Dr. Peter Daszak. Who was Dr. Peter Daszak? Everybody talks about, rightly so, the $3.7 million that Dr. Anthony Fauci gave the Wuhan laboratory. But actually, Dr. Fauci did not give $3.7 million to Wuhan. Dr. Anthony Fauci gave the $3.7 million to Eco Health Alliance, led by Peter Daszak. Peter Daszak subcontracted the Wuhan Institute of Virology. So Fauci paid Daszak, Daszak paid Wuhan. Peter Daszak, the British American disease, what they call it? They call him disease ecologist. He was the project director of all of the bat coronavirus work that Shi Zhen Li did. She was his boss. I'm sorry, he was her boss. He was her paymaster. And so the process was this. Peter Daszak paid Shi Zhen Li. Well, the two of them found viruses in southern China. That's what they did. They did bat coronavirus surveillance. So between 2011 and 2014, Fauci paid Daszak to do virus hunting in southern China. He subcontracted Shi Zhen Li. So they found all of these viruses in southern China. Shi Zhen Li's, her primary job was sequencing the virus. She's just on a computer. She's inputting the sequences on a computer. The viruses that they found were shipped to North Carolina. Ralph Barrick manipulated the virus. He's the one that produced the monsters. So that's the triangle. Peter Daszak was the paymaster, and he and Shi Zhen Li were in the caves of southern China. They found the viruses, but the viruses tended to stay in the possession of Peter Daszak, not Xi Jinping of China.
Mm.
So when I learned that, I became doubtful that, well, no, this particular virus was not likely in Wuhan. So then you had to ask the question, how did it arrive at Wuhan? So then the Wuhan military games became an option in this sense. So there are circumstantial evidence that suggests that the Wuhan games, they're relevant. They're not irrelevant.
Yeah.
First confirmed case was November 17th, 2 weeks after all of the athletes left Wuhan on October 28th.
Mm-hmm.
The French and the Italian teams, they confirmed that they got severely ill.
Yes.
Now, the 5 American soldiers that are popular in the literature, they did not, according to the hospital they were treated at, they didn't have the coronavirus, they had malaria. How did the virus enter Wuhan? The Dr. Fauci's and the DARPA and the bio labs, the bio warfare structure that financed this, they had a particular protocol. Pathogens in human blood into countries that they have an embassy in,
Mm-hmm.
pathogens enter with via diplomats because diplomatic pouches have diplomatic immunity.
Mm.
So Fort Detrick and the CDC sends pathogens into countries under diplomatic immunity in the diplomatic pouches. So it's very possible. It's very possible that the virus entered, and it could have entered not in the body. I don't believe it entered in the body of one of the athletes.
Yeah.
There's a popular theory that this bicyclist brought the virus to Wuhan, but as far as I can research, he never had the virus. I do not believe that an athlete or any of the athletes came with the virus in their body.
Yeah.
More likely that part of the delegation was diplomats that had diplomatic immunity, and their pouches had diplomatic immunity. And because it's standard operating procedure for the Department of Defense to transport dangerous pathogens into countries that they have a diplomatic relationship with, it's their standard operating procedure to secretly send those pathogens under diplomatic cover and diplomatic pouches. It's very possible that that's how it happened, that somebody from the delegation had it and it was released during that occasion, but I'm not convinced. So I couldn't find verification of the claim, for example, that the athletes resided at the Wuhan Oriental Hotel.
Yeah.
And 42 employees of the Wuhan Oriental Hotel got sick from the virus. I see that cited a lot, but I can't find credible information that supports that.
Mm-hmm.
So while I consider it, I can't say that that's true. So I don't know. I don't have reason. I couldn't find reason. I do believe there's enough circumstantial evidence that the Wuhan military games from October 18th, they started the same day Event 201 started.
Mm.
That can't be a coincidence. Event 201 started October 18th. The Wuhan military games started October 18th. So, and it ended October 28th. I think the games were an occasion because 2 weeks later is when the outbreak happens. But I'm not, I do believe that there's a connection there. I'm not convinced that it entered Wuhan through the body of American athletes. I'm more inclined to believe that it entered Wuhan in the diplomatic pouch of somebody, a diplomat of that delegation, rather than an athlete, him or herself.
Definitely. All right. So I want to pivot into another topic. I want to speak about the weed. You know, I want to commend you for your research, and
I appreciate that.
I want to commend you for your unwavering, you know, to huh? Yeah,
Commitment to
yeah,
the topic, can potentially, be ill received in a community that has become
Ain't no
somewhat,
potential about that. That's my reality. And ill received is an understatement. Nothing I have put out has generated the hate.
We know there's people out there.
You mentioned Red Pill, I put out stuff that get people salty. I don't do it on purpose, but from Black Arabia, right? Everything I put out, I create enemies. People get salty from Black Arabia to understand the assault, but nothing has generated the backlash that my exposing the pot plot has generated. And that's why I was forced to write an 800-page book.
That's right.
With 2,000 footnotes on it. And I'm going to say this as we pivot into this discussion. I'm going to say this to frame what's about to go down in this conversation. I made lectures on the subject, right?
Yeah.
The documentation's okay. And I invite people to study the documentation I put in the lectures, study arguments, and refute it. Okay. I published for free academic pieces. I published a bibliography because people say he's using outdated research. So I published for free a bibliography of 100 sources. I put it on social media, and I damn near begged the people to read it, vet the sources. If I'm wrong, don't come saying, nigga, you crazy, nigga, you wrong. No, don't. I'm putting the sources available to you for free. And nobody, everybody whining. And ain't nobody taking me up when I say that I'm making it available for free. Headed. So we're in a different place now. I just want to let y'all know.
Yeah.
I wrote an 800-page tome.
That's right.
On the subject, on the pot plot. 800 pages, 2,000 footnotes. What that means is I ain't got no more time for whiners. You have to. You don't have the right, not you, but I'm talking to those out there. You don't have the right to I disagree. No, you got to avail yourself to the tone, and you have to the 2,000 sources. You ain't got no more right to disagree because you want to disagree. Now that this is out, the 800-pound gorilla in the room. So I'm going to share what Allah blesses me and us to share in this conversation, but nobody has the right to say, I disagree with him. Get the book and impeach the sources. I'm not speaking out of vanity. I gotta say this with due respect. I hope I'm not coming off wrong, but all of y'all, because y'all got it, not y'all, but y'all, the plural generic y'all, got at me so hard for so long. But now I own this conversation. 800 pages, 2,000 footnotes. I own the conversation until y'all impeach the documentation. Until you avail yourself and impeach the documentation, I own the conversation. So let's start the conversation.
Definitely. I want to know what is your current research about the dangers of this new designer weed that many people are familiar with, the runts, the gelato. You know, they got silverback
moon
rocks. They got silverback gorilla lizard breath. They got cat piss. They got, I mean, any name you could think of. They got Marge Simpson. You know, it's blue. It got blue hairs on it. Like,
I would say this: moon rock, sun rock, gorilla, silverback. All of these exotic strains, in truth, they're a distraction. The GMO is the loud. The GMO is the gas. Why do I say that? I said in Baltimore, and it's true, and I say it here. No, I have to start this way. Otherwise, I'm irresponsible and I'm not heeding to the guidance that the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan gave me on this subject. So I must start here. The cannabis plant is absolutely God's holy herb. And Wesley Muhammad can't say I'm pro Allah and anti-cannabis. So I understand that that's the popular perception of me, but that's not the case. I recognize as much, or certainly as much as you, maybe more than those who are angry with me, thinking I'm anti-cannabis. I recognize the cannabis plant as God's holy herb with power that God gave it for the benefit of the human being. There was no question.
But to be clear, we're talking about the untampered original strain. Like here in America, they would call it Indian hemp, right? That particular cannabis plant and a lot of the other indigenous forms that are not necessarily chemically altered or interfered with in a laboratory.
And because it's hemp, you can't get high off of it. Wow. That's what I want to get to. The cannabis plant, the God planted, is that I want to say, see, that loud ain't God's holy herb.
No.
That blunt ain't got none of God's holy herb in it. I promise you that. Because God's holy herb, cannabis in its natural state, not only in order to get the medicinal benefit, the maximum of medicinal benefit of the cannabinoids, they all synergize with each other. You heard of the so-called entourage effect. So God created with all of these unique chemicals that synergize with each other. That's very medicinal. But of those chemicals, we like THC because we avail ourselves of marijuana not because we want to be healed. We avail ourselves of marijuana because we want to get high. Now,
right.
If God was to drop right now his original cannabis plant, the ultimate holy of holies, and any of these brothers lit it up, they would cursed God because they can't do nothing with that holy herb because it has a THC content of less than 1%, and the CBD content, the ratio is such that CBD controls the negative effects of THC. And so that's why it's called hemp. And it can be used for wiring and for industry. Because you can't get high off hemp because the THC content is too low. But
right, 0.3.
So we grafted THC up to 10%, 15%, 20%, and
20%.
grafted the CBD out. That's what loud is. We ain't got to get to moon rock. The GMO is the weed that you smoke that has a THC content of 10, 15, 20%. That's GMO.
That's not natural. That
That's
doesn't
not
occur in nature.
because
Right.
natural marijuana can't get you high. It don't have the THC content to do that. So God's holy herb. So we acknowledge that. We have to keep that out of the discussion of loud. We got to keep that out of the discussion of Kush.
Yeah.
That ain't that.
So let me preference this conversation real quick. 1937, in comes Ann Slinger with the help of the the DuPonts and Hearst, right? Because industrial hemp was a threat to the paper industry, and it was a threat to, there would be no need for a chemical industry if they were to utilize industrial hemp for over the 25,000 uses that it was being identified as. Popular Mechanics for the very first time said this is $1 billion crop. That type of language wasn't even being used back then. So they were about to introduce a machine that was going to mainstream the cultivation of the hemp plant, just like they had did for the cotton, right? Because it's a very laborious for people to what you call it, to tend to the hemp. It was more laborious than cotton, right? So they finally were about to create a machine and unveil a machine which would have mainstreamed it, and it would have been a threat to the artificial industrial industries that came about, right, in the second industrial revolution. Okay, so they tied it to the, what was it called, reefer madness, right? They utilized the thing that they always utilize when they want to ignite something, which is sex, right? And the fear of a black messiah by way of his sexual prowess or what have you, and they were able to criminalize it. I was doing my research. The first criminal code or the first criminal law that went in place for marijuana was in 1619 in Jamestown, simultaneously at the same time that the Africans stepped off of the boat. They have been criminalizing Africans and marijuana at the same time. So with that being said, and them successfully taking it out of the way for them to do all of their devilishment, because everything that we're talking about in that period of time up until now, with the earth being in conflict because of toxins and poisons, all of this started primarily with DuPont and the rest of them being able to enact, all of these artificial chemicals and what have you, and just start polluting the entire planet in the oil, the fossil fuel industry and everything. So again, as our people come to this 400-year period of allegedly coming out of the curse of slavery and being held back or what have you, and we simultaneously see this plant also coming out of this level of confinement, you know what I'm saying? And now the hemp being legalized, coinciding at the same time with the conversation about marijuana, which I think is a separate conversation, as you're pointing out. Do you see any similarities to that if we're talking about that particular plant being God's plant and us being God's children?
Do I see any similarities? I have been accused of spearheading the new reefer madness. The the weed community speaks too much of Harry Anslinger and too little of Roger Adams. The history you recited is accurate. Harry Anslinger over the Department of Treasury, which this fell into at the time. He villainized cannabis, introduced the Spanish term for it, marijuana, to ethnicize it and generate the racist passions of the country. All of that is true. Harry Anslinger in 1937 called the conference. And out of that conference, the tax law, in prohibitive or inhibitive tax law form, all of that is true. But you talk too much about Harry Anslinger and too little about Roger Adams.
Okay.
Because Harry Anslinger's legacy ended then. Roger Adams' legacy lives now. Who is Roger Adams? At that 1937 conference that Harry Anslinger called, Roger Adams was the organic chemist that was recruited to identify the active ingredient of marijuana. Of course, now we know the active ingredient is THC, but in 1937, it had not been identified and isolated.
Right.
Roger Adams was the organic chemist right here in Chicago who isolated THC, but more importantly, he created the first synthetic THC. And it's his synthetic THC produced in 1939. It is his synthetic THC that is the backbone of the THC that is in practically all of the, and I'm saying practically only to hedge my bet. But the truth of the matter is more likely every bit of THC that is made available legally. The THC is not natural. Not only is it synthetic, it's Roger Adams' THC that he synthesized in 1939 on the instruction of the conference that Harry Anslinger called. So Harry Anslinger, Reefer Magnus, his interracial sexualization of marijuana smoking. See, we didn't move past that. Anslinger's legacy is done. But Roger Adams' legacy lives on today because the U.S. government has the patent on THC and CBD. And so all THC products come from, are provided by the U.S. government, and they provide the Roger Adams 9, they call it the 9-carbon molecule of THC. Roger Adams synthetic THC, all the dispensaries, the THC molecule, the backbone is in it, is Roger Adams synthetic THC added with a nitrogen atom, making for the first time, and now that is and I close on this on Anslinger. One of the, and this is how it works. One of the myths of Reefer Madness that Anslinger promoted to villainize marijuana at the time, he introduced the concept of marijuana as a gateway drug. That you smoke marijuana inevitably it will lead you to need harder stuff. Well, cannabis, marijuana in 1937, it wasn't a gateway drug. It did not have addictive properties at the time. But what's important is that when Anslinger wasn't just speaking an untruth, Anslinger was setting a process in motion that will come to reality. The one who we talk about, the queering of hip hop, the one who made Molly, the one who made this iteration of Molly, is the same one who made the addictive marijuana, because Alexander Shulgin, a Russian Jew, taking the backbone of Roger Adams' synthetic THC molecule that he created in 1939 under the authority of Harry Anslinger. Alexander Shulgin in 1964 added a nitrogen atom to that THC molecule. And by doing that, for the first time, cannabis is different from other intoxicants because it's not an alkaloid. Alkaloid, nitrogen-based chemicals. Heroin is addictive because heroin is an alkaloid. That nitrogen chemical. Cannabis, the THC molecule lacks a nitrogen, so it's non-alkaloid. Except it is now. The THC molecule that's made available. The reason, so Prince Paul of 3-6 Mafia said, this weed today, this issue is addictive. Well, yes, it is, because it's deliberately made the new heroin, because Alexander Shulgin introduced a nitrogen atom into the synthetic molecule created by Roger Adams. And now for the first time, marijuana is an alkaloid product. And that's why it's addictive. So people smoke it, people deny being addicted to it, but keep it 100. The reason you smoke every day is because you cannot smoke every day.
Yeah.
Because it is addictive. Now, natural cannabis isn't, but natural cannabis is not an alkaloid.
And you know,
now
anytime
made an alkaloid by the introduction of that nitrogen atom in Roger Adams' synthetic THC.
Anytime you hear anything with the word head in it, it denotes some form of addiction. So a crackhead and a weed head, you know, are not that much diametrically different. And it, to me, it's upsetting that they would always use the legacy of Sabi to condone, you know, heavy smoking. And I'm like, if Sabi was against hybrid plants, period, I think that that would primarily be inclusive of the cannabis plant as well. You know, so I would concur, and I would say that the family needs to do a little bit more research, because when I got into researching hemp and more so into the industry, and I started visiting dispensaries, I mean, it's a chemicalized plant. Like, there's so much artificialness that goes into cultivating and growing it. There's not too much natural about the process. You know what I'm saying? Now, hemp, you know, you can grow hemp wild, and you know, it hasn't gone through all of these levels of mutations. You feel me?
Right.
But the damn sure can't say that.
But hemp is a industrial product. Right?
Yeah.
Everybody's smoking hemp because hemp ain't the reason.
You know,
they distinguish hemp from marijuana because the THC content in the two. Hemp,
yeah, 0.03. But people are now starting to smoke hemp because of its calming effects and its medicinal. You know,
so my question to that will be, because we like throwing names around, right? So people may be smoking something that they are calling hemp, But what distinguishes legally hemp from marijuana, those are two technical designations legally. Marijuana is a Schedule I drug. Hemp is not. The difference is the THC content.
Percentage 0.03. Yes.
What? Wait, what has 7? What did you just say?
0.03.
Yes, that's hemp.
Yes.
Which is also natural cannabis.
Yes.
And so 0.03 percentage THC ain't getting nobody high.
No, yeah, like I said, although it's not getting people high per se, people are still smoking it for the calming effect,
So
right?
people are smoking a hemp product with 0.03 THC in it?
Yes. 0.003 and lower. Yes. Because it is operating, like you said, the entire plant has an entourage effect, but the actual CBD or the hemp, it has a calming effect. You know, it has more of a medicinal effect, so people are able to, you know, bring themselves to a level of balance. Because a lot of people are naturally hyperactive without smoking the loud.
Let me ask you something.
Yes.
You certainly, I have to learn this from you guys. You mentioned Dr. Sebi. Shout out to the great Dr. Sebi behind you. You said something just now that it wasn't my understanding. So you tell me before I respond. What I've seen Dr. Sebi defend smoking marijuana. I saw his children and Asami Bowman on a Breakfast Club. And they talk about marijuana, and Asami Bowman made the inaccurate statement, quote, our body naturally produces THC. That is a profoundly wrong statement. It's a popular wrong statement, but its popularity doesn't make it any less wrong. It's very wrong. We could talk about that. But I did, hearing what you just said, my understanding, which I'm not an expert on,
right,
Dr. Sebi. So are you saying that Dr. Sebi is not or was not a big promoter of smoking marijuana? Did he nuance that in any way? Because I just heard him in this video talk about God made it, and I can smoke this shit if I want to.
Yes. What I'm saying is that where Sebi lives at in Honduras, a lot of the marijuana is still widely grown. You know, there's no alteration.
Yo.
You lost the God.
To the plant, it's not produced enough. Hello?
Blue, your screen froze. Bring it back about.
Yeah. You froze for 60 seconds.
Yeah. What I was saying is that, you know, the weed that I know that he mainly consumed or what have you was weed that was wildly grown in Honduras, and I don't think that weed had any alteration to its THC level because it was wildly grown, you know, marijuana. I do know when he would come to New York or other places, at least where I encountered him, I would have conversations with him to say, "Yo, Sabi, that weed that they selling in the streets, that ain't, you know, that ain't what the Rastas be smoking. That's not the stuff that, you know, I grew up smelling. You know what I mean? That y'all would sit around and smoke." And we have conversations about it, but not necessarily at length per se. But what I'm saying is that I don't think that he would stand on separating the hybridization of that particular plant versus the hybridization of all of these other plants that he has said, don't eat this food, don't partake in this particular GMO. Oh, but this GMO weed is okay. I don't think that's the approach that he would have necessarily taken Um, you know, that's my assumption. You feel me? That's my assumption on it. Like I said, we've had very brief conversations, and it was somewhat discomforting because I didn't necessarily get the lengthy response that I'm used to getting from him.
So there's a couple things I would like to. I see a couple comments I would like to address. One, someone said, "Grow your own," so I want to address that.
Mm-hmm.
Another said, when I quoted Brother Sami Bowman claiming our bodies have natural THC, and I said he's wrong. Someone asked, well, do we not have cannabinoid receptors in our body? I want to address that. Very important. Mm-hmm. The third thing I want to the comment you made, we have to face this fact. And I got to be honest. I have to be honest. I respect our health gurus. I'm not a health guru. Mm-hmm. I'm Elijah Muhammad. I'm Elijah Muhammad, the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad guru.
Understood.
You see me talking about milk, if you see me talking about food, if you see me talking about the mothership, whatever you see me talking about, it's because I'm talking about the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
We understand that, yes.
So I find this curious with the health gurus. The smoking weed thing, cannabis as a medicinal plant is one thing. But you guys know, as I'm sure Dr. Sebi knew, they're putting fire to that plant.
Yeah, alters the chemical structure.
Alters the chemicals, and the smoke produced from that combusted plant, the chemicals in the smoke, the toxins, the phenols. So you know that, and so I find it curious how it is the alleged health gurus are the ones promoting not just the medicinal value of the cannabis plant. All of us will agree with that. But smoking marijuana is a very different engagement. You putting whether it's GMO or wild grown in Honduras, you put fire to that plant. You not only change the chemical composition to the plant, but you're inhaling smoke created from combusted plant matter. And I don't know, I'm sure Dr. Sebi would never valorize the smoke, the chemicals in the smoke produced from that combusted plant matter. So we can't have it both ways, is what I'm suggesting.
It is often said, that people are addicted to the smoke more so than the plant that they are smoking. You know what I'm saying? And when someone becomes addicted to
bad
something,
news is in that smoke.
Yeah, when someone becomes addicted to something.
So when I say this weaponized weed feminizes the black man.
Let me just finish this last piece.
Okay, I'm sorry.
When someone becomes addicted to something, they are going to find ways to advocate for it. They're going to find ways to normalize and popularize and do other things. You become an agent of your addiction, and the same could be said for the Rasta community.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because they are health advocates and some of the foremost, purveyors of information when it comes to medicinal plants and herbs and everything. More so before any of this, we should say what? That weed was a sacrament, right? It was medicinal, but when it was utilized in sacramental settings, and that was
not recreation
ceremony, not recreationally, and that's the main mistake. Point blank. Period. Right. It was sacrament. Right. So for ceremonial purposes, that's what the priesthood, went to look for when it's time to go to war. You know what I mean? You lace it with the hashish. You don't lace it with the hashish when you hanging out on the block. That's not what it's for. Right. There's a spiritual component to that plant. I've been reading ancient, antiquated documents when they speak about the name of the spirit that comes with that plant. You have to call on that for specific purposes and reasons and meanings, and it should not be abused. It's not an everyday recreational situation. Anytime you abuse anything, like you said, now you're an addict, you're a head, you're a this and you're a that. And you are no longer serving the higher purpose of the relationship with that plant. You are in service of your addiction to the smoke from that plant, because the plant itself is not addicted, it's the smoke. Right. Red, you want to say something?
I was just gonna ask that when you cook meat, do you consume flesh?
Are you asking, do I?
Yeah, chicken.
I dab. I'm trying to live up to the standard. We should not. You will never catch me defending eating any meat. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad said the diet for us is vegetarian. So there is no defending eating meat. Eating meat cannot be defended. And you ain't, and I'm not the fool to sit here and try to do what can't be done.
Indeed.
Cook or raw, no meat is for human consumption.
For the family that's out there who want to, still receive the medicinal properties of the plant, in your research, drinking the marijuana as a tea, what does that, what does that come back as for you?
So it's important. So first, let's have an agreement that the discussion of medical cannabis is a totally different discussion than smoking weed.
Indeed.
Those are opposite discussions.
Indeed.
Smoking ain't nothing medicinal about smoking weed. Smoking weed is toxic. But the cannabis plant is not when used correctly. And so I don't I always use this analogy. When my wife lays down to engage in the ultimate divine act of birth, right?
Yes.
My wife lay down to give birth. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said the pain of birth is equal to the pain of death. For every woman that lays down and bears a child, she dies. She experiences death to bring a child. I say that to say this. So, we ain't never experienced that as men. Right. So we don't know the pain. So if my wife says, no, I need an epidural, nigga. All right, I'm going through this pain. I need an epidural. Right? And that epidural is morphine.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I done wrote a book about the weaponization of drugs. I ain't about to say, no, babe. The white man has weaponized drugs in our community, so you can have an epidural.
Right.
She has an epidural, opium. That's what it is. The opiate plant has an epidural, has the baby. The medicine, the epidural is medicine. It's a opium as an epidural is medicine. It does what it does. We leave the hospital with our baby. She don't go start smoking heroin because it was appropriate to consume opium in that medicinal context. Does not mean it's appropriate to consume opium as heroin. Now, to your question, whether it's a drink or if that, however that epidural, however that medicinal opium is delivered, you know, right now it's a shot, right? A very painful shot.
Yes.
Maybe in the future, see, it's in pill form, right? So a woman about to give birth, or maybe it's a liquid. Maybe the woman doesn't have to suffer the pain of the epidural shot. Whatever the delivery mechanism, if it's medicinal, right? It's delivered medicinally to serve a medicinal purpose. And once the purpose is served, however you consume it, once the medicinal purpose is served, then you leave it alone. Otherwise, you engage in recreational use. Now, if we drink cannabis recreationally, then we're still over indulging in the medicine. I say this one last point to you. I don't take medicine. I resist. But I do confess. The weed smoking Negroes can get to me to a point where my headache is so throbbing, right? Then my headache lasts so long.
You might want to lay it.
I'm gonna take a Tylenol, right? I like y'all done got to me. I need to take some drugs. So I take a Tylenol for my headache. My headache is gone.
You need some gold, man. You need some of that gold.
Or that. So I take it for the headache. That's medicinal use. But if I start popping aspirin recreationally, then it's going to have the opposite effect. So the medicinal cannabis should be used as medicine. And whatever delivery mechanism, whether it's as an edible, but if we're eating marijuana chocolates like we're eating Hershey's bar, then you getting all of these cannabinoids, exocannabinoids versus endocannabinoids. And that goes to the point of, are there cannabis or cannabinoid receptors in our body? Yes, therefore are natural cannabinoids, endocannabinoids,
right,
not exocannabinoids that hijack the system. I'm sorry, go ahead, Red. You want
No, hold on. I need you to build on that a little bit more in terms of exocannabinoids that hijack the systems are artificially, chemically activated. Like, which ones are that?
Yeah, see, that's a big myth. And so when Brother Asami Bowman said our bodies have natural THC, that was so bad for him to say that. THC and endo, you know what an endorphin is?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Endorphins, endo means within.
Yes.
Endorphins are our body's natural analog to morphine, right? That's why it's endorphin.
Right.
Morphine within, endorphin. Exomorphine does the opposite to the body. Endorphin. The endocannabinoids, we have an endocannabinoid system. The cannabinoid receptors throughout our body, they are made for the endocannabinoids. AG2, and AEA. These endocannabinoids are structurally different than THC. They don't look alike. They don't act alike. The only thing they do alike is THC can activate the cannabinoid receptor. But the cannabinoid receptor, its natural fit is the endocannabinoids, AEA and AG2. Now, it's very important. The endocannabinoids are very different than the exocannabinoids. Our body God didn't create our body with cannabinoid receptors. And with the thought that we need to smoke weed to get those cannabinoid receptors activated. He created the natural activators in our body to activate those receptors. They are very different from THC and CBD. So endocannabinoids do the good without the bad. Exocannabinoids can do the good by activating the receptor, but it also does the bad because it's foreign and it don't fit. It's structurally different from the endocannabinoids, and structure is function biologically. Form is function biologically. So THC hijacks the system. It hijacks the space that belongs to AEA and AG2. And this last point, the difference, the specific distinction of endocannabinoids is they are always produced on demand. We never have a ready supply of endocannabinoids in us because they affect so many aspects of our physiology, such as the endocrine system, the system that produces testosterone and estrogen.
Yes.
The endocannabinoid system regulates that. So the balance, the precise amount of endocannabinoids is critical. So the body never just generates endocannabinoids. It generates endocannabinoids on demand when they're needed to do their job, and that's it. That's endocannabinoids. Now, and so our natural cannabis receptors are properly stimulated at the proper time, at the proper amount of time by endocannabinoids. But we smoking weed now. We are daily drinking a cannabis tonic. And our body is now experiencing all of these exocannabinoids. The body ain't generating on demand the natural activators of the receptors. Now we consuming the exocannabinoids, and they are activating the receptors, but they're not supposed to be activated. There's no need for the cannabinoid receptors to be activated. So they are overstimulated. That's why the endocrine system is thrown out of whack. That's why the testosterone, the estrogen ratio in men is thrown out of whack. Lower testosterone, elevated estrogen, the feminization of Black men. And in Black women, I document the masculinization of Black women because the overstimulation of the receptors increases testosterone in women and diminishes estrogen. So we are a gender neutered people, but we have to get it lifted. So no, Asami, our body don't produce THC. Our body produces AEA. Our body produces AG2. They are structurally different. These endocannabinoids are structurally and thus chemically and functionally different than THC. So that was an extremely wrong and irresponsible comment.
Well, we appreciate that science. Definitely something that I would encourage everybody that's listening, even though you may be biased because you may be a smoker. Go and do the research.
Go to Dr. Wesley online, read the 800 pages, impeach the 2,000 footnotes.
Definitely.
And you own the conversation.
I would make a request. I would definitely make a request that I would love for you and KT the Arch Degree to have a dialogue. I'm not sure if he's pro or against marijuana. I'm not 100% sure. I know my mother is. She's not with it. She publicly came out and was saying that, she's against the smoking and, if anything, maybe as a tea. But, that was definitely good. I want to touch on one more thing before we get out of here, and that would definitely be hip hop. Me and you did a lecture in Baltimore about a year ago. It was very powerful.
Powwow.
Yeah, it was, and the time was limited. So you were beginning to go in to some very interesting and very researched information about some of the players behind the scenes that were instrumental with steering the culture in the destination that we see it today, that is not considered to be a favorable destination. Ever since that day, ever since that lecture that we did, we've been seeing some movements inside of the hip hop game. There's been some murders. I believe Pop Smoke died after that. Tekashi 6ix9ine came home. There are, all of these artists and whatnot during the COVID-19 that began to become woke and speak up. Then there are others who became more silent than ever, and they begin to lose their social value amongst the people because the audience is saying that certain music is irrelevant now, that they don't want to hear all of that negativity or that old paradigm of bitches ain't shit, pardon me, all of that stuff, the negativity, and people are gravitating more towards protest music. Little Baby has the most listened to protest song out of this new cycle.
Imagine that.
Right? Imagine that. And, people are gravitating more so towards artists that are speaking about something. So can you talk real briefly to the family?
I seen 2 Chainz version, today.
He did a version?
Yeah, he got a protest song.
Meek Mill got something. 2 Chainz got something. People are like, oh, they're just putting, they're just playing, they're pandering.
Right, hopping on the bandwagon.
Yeah, what I do know is Minister Farrakhan, since me and Blue since all of us were young, he's been spearheading, the position of the village elder amongst the hip hop community, right? He would be the sage, right, of the gangster rappers, the trap rappers, the gang bangers, the backpackers, the mumble rappers even love Farrakhan. They seek his counsel. The brothers from the 80s and the 90s, I think they were a little bit more intricately tied into, balancing out, listening to cassettes of Farrakhan and hitting the block, and they had a little bit of Khaled, they had some Malcolm, what I'm talking about? They got into some York. So a lot of the street organizations married consciousness by way of Father Allah, Louis Farrakhan, and other things.
Yeah. We can frame it like this. when hip hop resonated on a 5-point frequency, it was totally different. When 6-point frequency hip hop came in by way of these Roman Catholic students called Puff Daddy and Biggie Smalls, and they ushered in the money ain't a thing era of materialism, crass commercialism and materialism. When that 6-pointed energy came into hip hop metamorphed into what it is that we see today. I think that's what you're trying to say.
Yes.
So, first, the last comment, I do have to say, I would trace, while I acknowledge the role that Bad Boy in particular, and Sean Puffy Combs played in introducing a particular subset of hip hop that will come to dominate and nauseates us, the bling bling, or the over materialized hip hop. I trace and so the subtitle of the book, just so you know, The Pot Plot, Marijuana, Hip Hop, and the Scientific Assault on Black America. We document the weaponized, not just the weaponization of marijuana, but the weaponization of hip hop. As to Red Pill's point was excellent. Look, early hip hop was so tied to Islam. There was a nexus, a natural organic nexus between early hip hop and Islam. And not, of course, it culminated with Public Enemy, but it didn't begin nor end with Public Enemy. I suggest in here that the decision to weaponize hip hop began with a decision to break the influence of Islam in hip hop. Now, I trace the beginnings of the official commandeering of hip hop. I trace it to, of course, not just Jerry Heller, but Brian Turner.
Who's Brian
Turner? Everybody talk about Jerry Heller's role with NWA, the Jew, but Brian Turner is the bigger Jew that financed. He gave Jerry Heller the money to finance NWA. And Brian Turner said when he heard F the Police, he said, oh, we can scare white people with this and make a lot of money. So these Jews were reinventing through NWA the zip coon. The zip coon was the particular coon that white America of the 19th century had this insatiable appetite for. He's different from Jim Crow. Jim Crow is the foolish, dummy type coon, but the zip coon was the bully coon. The zip coon ran through the community of coons, killing niggas. White America had an insatiable appetite for the zip coon, and Jews provided the zip coon. That's why Brian Turner and Jerry Heller, when Brian Turner heard F the Police, he said, oh, I can frighten white people and make a lot of money, because he was repackaging the zip coon. Now, then, but the most critical moment is 1992. And I have to admit, my favorite hip hop event is Chronic, ironically. But it just is what it is. My favorite hip hop event is arguably the most important weaponization of hip hop event, the release of the Chronic. And so by the time with Bad Boy, and I have to say, with all of the cultural sins that Puffy can be charged with,
Yeah.
I gotta shout out Puffy because the Criterion,
Oh yes.
July 4th, 2 million viewers, and it's largely, though not exclusively, because Puffy showed it on his Revolt platform.
Yes.
Others were caving. Puffy held it down, and he streamed the minister's most important message. So, what his cultural sins yesterday, to me, he made up with standing up to the enemy and showing the man of God. Now, but that, so Clive Davis financed Bad Boy. Clive Davis is part of the Jewish gay mafia. I said that I hold Clive Davis responsible for the death of Whitney Houston because of Clive Davis's drugola program, not payola, drugola.
Drugola.
Instead of money as the exchange, the pay-for-play exchange, drugs were used. Clive Davis, and he would pay his black artists with drugs. And he took, obviously, he made Whitney Houston his special project. I don't know if when that, 17-year-old Whitney Houston met Clive Davis, I don't know what her drug history was. I know Clive Davis and his drugola operation created a huge number of black drug addicts in the industry. Now, yeah, go ahead.
Now, I just want to backtrack a little bit and just say, you know, what got Clive Davis through the door was, you know, him being a Harvard graduate and also a lawyer, you know, the CIA connection via Harvard with the white paper about the infiltration of black soul music by way of Philly sound, stacks. What's that?
Gambling Huff. Right.
Gambling Huff. Right? So the monopoly of black soul, the monopoly that was Philly soul, the monopoly that was Cuddy and all of them. He disrupted that, and he took the ownership away and the creative control away. And that, you know, I just wanted to, because I don't want to, everybody knows that part, that his entry point.
Very important.
Yeah, they're hiding that on the internet, because when I went back to research it, they scrubbed the internet of a lot of that information, but there are books out there. There's a book called Philly Soul about Clive Davis.
That's why all research should be book-based research, not internet-based.
Can be internet-based.
Black to the Root. Right? There's another book. Yeah.
Would you say, Blue?
There's another book called Black to the Roots, where they speak about the CIA commissioned a white paper report, or Harvard, should I say, and they commissioned him to carry out that hit job on black music, black soul music, because the CIA was terrified of the prospect of Bob Marley going on tour with Stevie Wonder. They said that would change the dynamic of everything, because they already saw what Bob Marley was able to do internationally with, you know, inspiring revolutionary movements. And they said if Stevie goes radical, there's nothing that they could do to stop it. You know what I'm saying? It would have caused a cascade in the wave of consciousness in our people that they would not be able to contain You know what I'm saying? With all of the games that they play. So Clive Davis was already seasoned by time a young, unimpressioned, unsuspecting Puffy Combs came over there. You feel me?
So
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
we definitely see, Brother Sean coming into the cognizance of him understanding, what sort of debt he has to pay to society to balance out his contributions. So we do acknowledge and honor him for standing up, not only with the criterion, he has been utilizing his platform through COVID.
He's evolving. And
to
we
speak
have
truth
to let all of us grow.
Yeah.
Now, do I document that Clive Davis has played a role in the queering of hip hop? Yes. Am I suspicious of the $65 million Clive Davis fronted Brother Sean Puffy Combs to start up Bad Boy Records? Yes. Do I wish that money would have come not from Clive Davis? Yes. Do I think hip hop would have traveled, at least that portion of hip hop would have traveled a little differently if Clive Davis and the Jewish gay mafia in the music industry that he represents? Do I think things would have went a different direction if Puffy was not connected to that? I do think that. And that is true, and we cannot brush that under the rug. What's also true is Puffy's growth and evolution. It seems like his determination to be a positive cultural force for his people. And so I applaud while we document the other stuff, and we must. I do applaud his growth and evolution.
I just wanted I just want to throw in that if Clive Davis wasn't in the picture, Nas, Wu-Tang, and a few others would have been allowed to flourish a lot more, because in those days it was that bad boy push,
right?
With all of those resources,
right?
The radio connects and those the red tape that Clive and all of them were able to pull, for Puffy and whatnot, that blocked out the rise of a Nasir Jones, that blocked out Queensbridge rap, that blocked out what Wu-Tang was bringing, because they were bringing back what we spoke of previously. It was aggressively moved out of the industry by Lior and a few other cohorts, and we see it play out right now because
the tall Israeli, the tall Israeli, Lior Cohen,
tall Israeli, because look at what Peter Rosenberg is showing you with the small hat fragility and whatnot. He did this today.
I like that.
This is how ingrained they are into our dysfunction. Peter Rosenberg went live on Instagram today to play music, to take his mind off of Deshaun Jackson. Guess what he was playing the whole live?
What?
Gangster rap.
Yeah, that's about right.
He was going in the crates and his consortium, right?
That's where the small hats want our mind at.
You have to remember, family.
The zip coon.
The zip coon. Let's talk frequency. And when we speak frequency, let's speak about when we are in the presence of the others and on different, and let's talk about the channels that we are on when we're around them, right? There's two channels. One channel is that you're on their channel with them and you're vibrating on their frequency. And what is their frequency? it doesn't matter what school of thought you belong to while you're watching this live. From the religious aspect all the way into the highest school of thought and knowledge. You could be a 720 degrees. Everybody's school of knowledge speaks of the frequency that the people came out of the caves, and the people who were considered to be the have-nots, who are enemies of the they speak about what these people's frequency is. So the frequency that is when black people are talking about killing black people.
That's right.
They like, I like that because I'm a hunter.
Brian Turner heard that and said, "Ooh wee, I like that."
That's my tune right there. You know, they get with that. Strange Fruit, right? When we were shimmying and dancing, and we bring up Anslinger. Anslinger was the one who killed Billie Holiday, okay? Through policy, not with his hands. Anslinger bankrupted her. He put her because she put out the song "Strange Fruit."
That's
He
right.
was determined to destroy her, in which they helped you, right?
Absolutely.
So when we're on that frequency is a different frequency. That is a frequency that's not inviting to them. That is a frequency that when you're in the room, and if you're on that channel, you will invoke what is known as white fragility. Inferiority complexes will begin to come online, and they will begin to show that they change color. They'll show you who's the real color person, because they go from off-white to pink to what
Ruby red.
Is it fuchsia?
That purple, right. They approach purple. That's sickly purple. That's sickly purple, yes, sir.
Yeah, that's sickly mauve. They turn mauve, right? So I'm saying all of that to say that when the hip hop industry was calling each other peace God, peace earth, right? Peace Allah, right? Because Allah is in the building. Guess who else is in the building?
Real
Devil. Because Allah and these gods, they have a theology that speaks of who the devil is. And once Liar and them, because they were, remember, when he was just a manager or a role manager, he did not have any power. He was listening to the music. He still was he was a role manager, so he was backstage and he was at the shows where there was peace Allah, peace God, peace earth. So if any one of those executives will ever utter if they wanted to play with our intelligence and play dumb and be like, oh, what can we do to help Black America? Take the game back to where it came when you was a goddamn roadie, right? And when it was the golden era because niggas was golden. You know what I'm talking about? And it's not just the gold that we was wearing. We were treating each other and speaking to. Remember, Rakim and them were considered to be, real street dudes, but that's not what they were portraying in their music.
Right.
You feel me?
Right.
They were really
and on that point, because maybe the interjection of this at this time can help people. Can you speak about the epsilon male real quick?
Extremely important.
Yes.
It that comes out of the science of dominance hierarchy. And the science of dominance hierarchy versus just the theory of dominance hierarchy, the investigations into serotonin that came out of UCLA in the 80s, which we go into great detail in our first book, Understanding the Assault on the Black Man, Black Manhood, and Black Masculinity. We document the serotonin. Serotonin is a very important brain chemical. In fact, I've identified serotonin and testosterone as the two biochemical sources of a man's drive for power. Well, in the late 80s, UCLA, very wicked place, conducted serotonin experiments where they discovered that the amount of brain serotonin a male has will determine whether that is a dominant male or a non-dominant male, subordinate male. And so there's a hierarchy from alpha to epsilon. The alpha male is at the top of the dominance hierarchy. The epsilon male is at the very bottom, the most subordinate. Would you say?
How do you spell that?
EPSILON, epsilon, alpha.
Thank you.
Beta, epsilon. And so, because that's so, people hear me talk about it and say, epsilon isn't the last letter, it's omega. Nigga, I'm not reciting the Greek alphabet. I'm reciting the hierarchy. So alpha is 4 tiers. Alpha, beta, or 5. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon. The lowest of the males, the most subordinate, the most non-dominant male is the epsilon male. And that's the so-called Negro male in America. And what's important, and we document that's so much of the drugs are designed to attack testosterone and to attack serotonin. That's how you keep the epsilon male. Epsilon, you rob him of the biochemical impulse to seek dominance. And by the biochemical impulses come from serotonin and testosterone. You rob him of that, he has no impulse to challenge the dominant male. And what happens was something very important. So the epsilon male becomes the zip coon, the bully coon. And so much of our hip hop, before hip hop was queer, hip hop was zip coon. And so the bully coon is the black dude who got all this conversation about his black ops, right? He banging on his ops, but all his ops are black.
All of them.
All his ops are black. And he is proud of the damage he can do to his ops now. Oh, I don't know. So, an epsilon that is bullying another epsilon. Ain't no G in that. That's called bully cooning.
Hold on.
An epsilon.
I gotta do it. I gotta show the example, man.
Show it.
We can't let this get away, Brother Wesley.
Show it.
Now. We gotta show it all, man. We gotta let the people see the exact example of what an epsilon male.
You know what's a bully cooning?
This is a perfect example of bully cooning because it took place yesterday. Here you have a man who's been wearing a dress most of his career.
Young Thug.
But he's known, right? And I'm not putting nobody's business out there because everybody knows what it is. He's known for the gun game, right? He's known for his work in the streets. And I'm not going to speak no man's business on this YouTube or whatnot. But let's just say that he's known for being active against his own.
Right.
Right. His ops.
His ops.
Leo Cohen put him in the dress.
That's right. This is a Leo Cohen investment, right? This is Leo Cohen 2.0. That's
right.
This is the 300 record label.
That's right.
Young Thug, the label.
That's crowning achievement, right?
That's right.
Would say Blue?
That's his crowning achievement.
That's
He
right.
is the full breakdown to the extraction of testosterone.
That's
He
right.
couldn't quite get it with Jay-Z, but they achieved it with a Young Thug.
That's right.
Oh, he's a menace in the streets. People fear him. Oh, we could put this nigga in a dress though because we see the bitch in him.
That's right.
Struggle.
Right. Real talk.
Right. All right, let's play this real clip.
First of all, your verse 7 days, if you know what I mean. I'm up for a week. If you know what I mean. I'm up for a week.
Hold on, I got a little buffer.
First of all, your verse 7 days, if you know what I mean. I'm up for a week. Second of all, you already done goddamn, you already went crazy.
Come on, load it and preference it in the meantime.
I'm trying to load it.
Yeah, you got to pause it and let it load, but explain to people what you're looking at.
Yeah, so Young Thug is beefing with the brother Pusha T, right? Yeah. Both of them not necessarily alpha male types, you know, not known to be the aggressors. Put Young Thug being the most epsilon out of the two because
he's the epsilon alpha. Yeah,
he's an epsilon alpha. You know what I mean? But like you said, the normalization of it, the acceptance of it, the making him the alpha in the industry over all of the young dudes. Like, nah, he's him. Like, don't play with him. You know, look at Wyatt Lucci. What does he get shot at every weekend? You know, there's an ongoing drama with these two. And every other weekend, he gets his car pelted with 30 bullets. So there's a lot of, and you know, Young Thug being from Atlanta, he's not by himself out there. You know.
First time, so you ain't even got it. Ain't nothing but a sucker going on double takes and triple takes and quadruple takes. You should have just got all of that on the first song. You put the first song out. You ain't even had to do all that on those niggas. You just feel like you ain't gonna get enough views on your own shit, so you came and put some bullshit on a whole nother a nigga who's resting in peace music, trying to fuck up a nigga whole vibe. Cause you feel like, but it's the perfect platform. Thug, Gunna, and Pop Smoke. This is the perfect platform to wet this nigga ass. This is the perfect song to do it on. Why the fuck you ain't do that shit on your own song? Do that shit on your own song, nigga. Niggas ain't jumping in on nigga business because I don't give a fuck about it. Now what one of y'all niggas got going on, nigga, we kill for real.
Okay. So that was just a perfect example just to capture what it is that you were speaking of, because that's taking place in real time right now, where you have these, you know, these people beefing about songs and verses, and you know that was something that we never heard of in the 90s or the 2000s. This is very new. Like,
right.
I don't think these things happen. So, you know.
So our rappers, they get murdered. They're death by murder, death by polypharmacy. The same way Michael Jackson was murdered, death by polypharmacy. And so,
polypharmacy, can you define that? That's a new one.
Absolutely. Many drugs.
Many drugs, right.
So in Michael Jackson's case, he had a very awful cocktail of drugs running through his blood when he was killed. Propofol was just one of them. That was a fall drug. The others had to disappear in the narrative because the other drugs connected to people. The Demerol connected the death to
Conrad.
No, Propofol connected the death to Conrad Murray, the black doctor.
Right.
But the Jew, Arnold Klein, who is David Geffen's, who was with David Geffen in the Jewish gay mafia.
Right.
Had Demerol that was really the kill shot, the kill drug was the Demerol, not the propofol. But the Demerol had to be disappeared because otherwise it will connect to Arnold Klein, which will connect to David Geffen and the Jewish Mafia. And remember, David Geffen was at the top of Michael Jackson's enemies list. And the other drug, Milazadam had to disappear because that's the drug that the CIA was experimenting with. It was the CIA's choice drug to induce learned helplessness, spent $80 million on an experiment on inducing learned helplessness with this drug. And that's the drug that was found in Michael Jackson's system. And Michael Jackson suffered from the exact learned helplessness that the CIA used that drug to induce. So that had to disappear. All we hear about is propofol and Conrad Murray. But the synergy of multiple drugs is polypharmacy, death by polypharmacy. And so now rappers, their street cred is based on how many drugs they pop. The spectrum, so they got to brag about the spectrum. Or just not enough to smoke weed. You got to smoke weed, pop perks, pop Molly. You got to do it all.
And drink lean.
You got to drink it all.
Got to wash it down.
And so all of these deaths, so Juice WRLD had several drugs in his blood. He died by polypharmacy. And so all of the rap artists, and there's been so many now, it's hard to keep up, who died of drug overdoses. It wasn't just the overdose of a single drug. They took too much crack, too much cocaine. In every case, the drug death was caused by the interaction of multiple drugs. They died by polypharmacy, death by polypharmacy. So rappers are either murdered, is death by murder, or death by polypharmacy. And both of those are scripted. The murder is scripted, and death by polypharmacy is scripted.
Right. So, I don't know if you finished on the Epsilon piece, but what are the ramifications of that? A society that is now being led by the alleged, because they have packaged the Epsilon as the alphas in a society where men seem to be grasping and looking for their manhood, the Leo aspect of them, the lion in them. You know what I'm saying? What happens when the people who supposedly are looking for that lion aspect of themselves are being led by puppies?
What happens is exactly what we have. And what do we have? We have Tamir Rice on video getting shot down in a drive-by. 12 years old, 12-year-old Tamir Rice. All right. We whine a little, protest a little. We have Sandra Bland murdered, and her mugshot is taken while she's dead.
Oh.
And that picture goes all over. We posted, we looking in the face of our murdered sister. All of these, Robert Scott, all of these, we are made to see, right? It's on video, right? And it's played over and over. All of these executions culminating in the most hideous execution of George Floyd. Now, every other human population who not only is forced to endure that, but forced to witness it, will naturally rise up against such torment. We have been chemically neutered. We don't have the biochemistry at the root of rising up against that. And so all of the, in the testosterone study, for example, they noted that all of the revolutions, from the European revolutions to the Arab Spring revolutions, all of them were led by high testosterone males. You have to have high testosterone and high serotonin to be compelled to rise up. But if you are testosterone and serotonin neutered, then you can be slaughtered on a big screen and you will never challenge the alpha, the epsilon, because serotonin, low serotonin, allows all violence is created equal. Dominant violence and non-dominance violence are very different. Non-dominance violence always deliberately avoids dominant males. All non-dominance violence, its signature is that it is always and only directed at other non-dominants. It always avoids dominant males. So our response to all that close. So what happens when that happens? What happens is what we got. Even George Floyd's horror film Murder didn't do nothing, get anything out of us, but the same thing it always does is we protest. And so folks saying that that's the front lines. Niggas saying that protests, George Floyd protests, led by Black Lives Matter and the Boogaloo Boys, the violence is from the white racists, the turn up is from the white racists. Only thing we want is police reform and a right to vote. See, that's the epsilon male. Always avoid confrontation with dominant males.
Damn, that was a good point. I wanted to make a point. Yeah, are you familiar with Universal 25?
I'm not. What is that?
That was it was an experiment done by a scientist by the name of Calhoun. Universe 25. It was a large scale experiment done with rats, and they were in a social environment. And this experiment was examining the same thing that you were speaking of, the alphas and the epsilons, and they called them the beautiful ones. Look
that up. Sounds interesting.
It's very interesting, and it's the case study of this.
They put them in the projects, and they were they were depriving them of food and resources, and they were showing that through generations how they would respond to these particular pressures. And when it got down to like the fourth or the fifth generation, they were only there was a segment of them that were called the beautiful ones, that they only were concerned with glamour. They didn't want to necessarily procreate. You feel me? But they would get violent at particular times, like on some young thick shit. They want to wear dresses and nails and look glamorous, but they will kill you. You feel me? They don't want to procreate. They don't want to do none of that.
Exactly.
Yeah, they homo thugs. You feel me? So all of this experimentation was done in the 60s, where they utilized rats inside of a project model. And they came up with all of
25. Was that it?
Yeah, Universal 25. It's very, very detailed research. There's videos on it. There's actual literature on it. It's been said that the case study helped them develop public housing and whatnot. because these rats were set up, the mice were set up like as if they were in public housing, and they were watching. They were examining the decay over multiple generations of these rats and things of that nature. And like Blue was saying, the non-aggressive ones were violent, hyper violent amongst themselves. And if you look at the social engineering that's taking place with these organized protests, organized events, organized opposition, these permit patty marches, you know, with these groups that are communicating in private, you know, and they're being funded by NGOs and all of these other private investors that we know that that's not us. What is this? Some old people in the South cutting a check? No, yeah. So the experiment, and then when we find out that they're adding in quantum computers to enact models, right? They're utilizing, you know, because you know they captured everybody's images via drones and via airplanes. They were all of those. You know, they're showing you the 100,000 marchers. But there's a drone showing you all of them. Well, there's drones that are more powerful than that commercial drone that's showing you they're flying over miles of people. But there's also airplanes, there's also satellites, and there's also higher, you know, there's planes that are more technologically efficient that are taking facial recognition of every single person that is marching. They have the technology to where they could do a panorama shot. If your iPhone 11 could do a panorama of a whole room, I don't care if it could be 1 million people in that room. You could take your iPhone and panorama shot and then blow that up on your computer and see everyone's face. They could take a picture of that whole crowd and run it through a quantum computer. The quantum computer is running computations of 200,000 computers at 1 second, 200,000 classical computers, which would be the computers that we all use right now. It's running a computation of 200,000 computers in a 1 second mark. That's what quantum is doing.
That's deep.
Yeah, and the government, because of the COVID and the crisis of the COVID and the pandemic, quantum computers are now accessible and online to all governments and average citizens. I have access to what is known as the D-Wave computer by way of what is known as a cloud-based program called Leap 2. Leap 2. They give me 1 second free. I get to use it for 1 second. But people would be like, they'll laugh at that 1 second.
Because you could get it in. Yeah.
Wow.
Right? So there's a lot of things going on in the realms of engineering in this modern day, what I call industry 4.0, because we've been ushered into a new industry where the technology, the data, and everything is going to be weaponized to lock people down, you know? And I want to end this. I want to end this conversation with the opportune question about the speech that we heard on the 4th of July, the Criterion. The minister opened it up with the red and the blue star Kachina, right? And it said, time for a change. People who saw the broadcast, they started tagging us. They just saw a red and blue, and it said time for change, but they were not familiar with the context of what that is. I remember when we saw you at the Staples Centers at the coronation, the going home celebration of Nipsey Hussle. We were at the
Peace to the God.
Peace to the God. And at that time, we were able to witness it live in real time, right there, standing on that floor at the Staples, when Minister Farrakhan revealed to the world the red star and the blue star, Kachina Hopi prophecy, right? Are you familiar with that, Dr. Wesley?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. So I just want to give the context to the family. This is not only Hopi prophecy. This is spoken of in Mayan prophecy. This is spoken of in Dogon prophecy and a few other prophecies. And they speak of the the oncoming of the end of days, right? For anybody that's a Bible toter, a devout Christian, or any of the brothers and sisters that are part of the Islamic faith. I'm only speaking of end of time prophecies and the telltale signs to know that these signs are taking place. Now, in the Hopi prophecies, we're up to the 9th prophecy because 8 of those prophecies have come true, right? There was a prophecy about the oncoming of the European, and that took place. There was a prophecy of railroads. They called it iron iron spider webs traversing the earth, and that was the quote unquote that was the railroad. Yeah, the railroad tracks. Then they spoke of wires, electrified wires in the or string wires in the sky. That would be the electric wires and whatnot. And now we are finally at the last prophecy, and they're speaking about the coming of the great purifier. And they say that when these stars are visible in the sky, a red star, a bright red star, and a bright blue star, either comets or stars, that would be the quote unquote trumpet, the last trumpet that is blown before the coming of the great purifier. And when the great purifier comes, it's been said that everything on the earth, all animals, all organisms will change forever. There will be signs that people could not ignore, and we'll just go into this place where those who are meant to level up will level up. Those who are on the frequency will begin to, change and go to higher frequencies. And those who are not prepared to make the shift will not make the shift and will not make the jump. So I just want to know from you, based on your observations of where we're at right now as a people, as a nation, are we in these end times?
No. That was very deep that you just dropped. That was excellent context. And of course, when we got on and I saw you and your brother, Red Pill, Blue Pill, I too thought about the red star and the blue star. And now the Hopi prophecy is great, very great. And I do bear witness, we are living in it. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, as the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan recited on July 4th, that most important message to the world from God through Farrakhan. He recited what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us. That red and blue star, the what word are you using? Katana?
Kachina. K-A China. Interestingly enough, it's K-A Ka China.
Is that like unity or what does that mean?
Kachina. The Kachina is it speaks of many things. It speaks of, it's like a supernatural being. The Kachina is a supernatural occurrence. It's a phenomenon. So there's multiple Kachinas, and in the Hopi culture, they have like dolls that represent the Kachina.
Yes.
But it's the Ka and the China.
That's powerful.
These dolls look identical to the Dogon dolls when they do the Siju, for the Sirius star every 60 years.
Yeah.
So this red and blue Kachin appears every 50,000 years. Now, note that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that history revolves in cycles of 25,000 years.
But
and so a complete cycle of history is 25,000 years, and it's a closed cycle. So 50 years represents 2 cycles, 2 closed cycles of history. And the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches that every 2 cycles, after 50 years, these 2 stars, the red and the blue star, appear, and they signal the universal change, a change that distinguishes the coming era from everything that went before it. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad pointed out that the red and blue star is in the sky, which means your point of your question, the presence of that kachina, red and blue kachina, signals the end of a 50-year period and the beginning of a new period that will be totally different.
Indeed.
And so we are in that era right now. Now, the Hopi associate this period with a purified one. It is the case that this period represented by the blue and red star, the period of change, universal change represented by the blue and red star, is also associated with a man. And that's a very important point. We want about we, I'm speaking of really woke Negroes. We want all this change, but we are determined to not have a man. But none of the prophecies, none of the indigenous culture wisdom, none of them promoted the idea of abstract events. Change unconnected with a human agent of change. None of our indigenous wisdom talked about organic developments unconnected to a human agent of those developments. As above, so below. So the change represented by this blue and red kachina is associated with a particular human being, the pure one. And that human being, so the Honorable Elijah Muhammad pointed to the stars that was pointed out to him by his teacher, Master Fard Muhammad. And so I would end with this. There are prophecies such as the Hopi prophecy that prophesied the appearance of that kachina. There are indigenous wisdom cultures or bodies of knowledge that prophesied the celestial ships, right? But let me make this point. Resist this great injustice that is so frequently done to the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. Woke Negroes are so hell-bent on, out of hatred for the Nation of Islam, so hell-bent on benefiting from the knowledge that we offered that at one time was extremely unique. But now, because as time went on, all of the science verifies and vindicates it. But there wasn't Timothy Goods above top secret when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was teaching on the mother wheel. I needed Timothy Goods above top secret in order to bear witness. But there was no such documentation when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was teaching that there is a wheel, a big mothership with 1,500 what y'all call UFOs. This is the science of it. Now it's popular to talk about the wheels, but take it out of our context, as if we did not teach America of it. The mothership that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught about is he pointed to the fulfillment of the prophecy, just like the red and blue Katrina. The Hopi and others prophesied of it. What Elijah Muhammad did, he didn't prophesy. He said, look, there it is. He didn't prophesy the future creation of this celestial military weapon. He said, look, there it is. So the difference between prophecy and the fulfillment of prophecy. So many woke Negroes want to hijack the supreme wisdom of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Nation of Islam and claim it as your own, not you, but the generic you. Claim it as your own and then remix it. And that's very unfair. So I say all that to say the Hopi prophecy of the red and blue Katrina, yes, I believe we are in it, I believe we are in it as the fulfillment of that prophecy. We are here now. It is no longer prophetic. It is real because that Katrina, after 50,000 years, is now in the sky. And it was Master Fard Muhammad, the pure one, who is to be associated with the red and blue Katrina, who pointed it out for the first time in 50,000 years.
So I would definitely say
times indeed.
I can't hear you, Blue.
I said these are profound times indeed.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
They are. Indeed,
These, in the words of our brother 19 Keys, these are some high level observations. And like I told him, I'll tell you,
19 Keys.
Yeah, we are honored to be on this journey. You know, we told Elijah Farrakhan a story when we saw him last, and I'll tell you, you know, my grandfather, one of his last dying, you know, before he made transition, you know what I'm saying? He would always reiterate his relationship with Farrakhan as being his student when they were doing the Calypso thing together. So he said, you know, you never abandon that man. You know, you treat him like a grandfather, like how you treated me as a grandfather. You know, so,
thank you for
in the audience, yes, seeing that brother, you know, on Saturday, and what I identified as regal strength. You know, like I said, not only delivering a timely message, but again, as someone such as me that is very mindful of the signs of the times, and I've been speaking to people about the sun and the transformation that it's been going through this year. You know, we call it Corona Rising. So when I saw the minister, the last scene they showed was of him picking up the water, and then it started raining. You know, to me, these are the signs that I look
great observation, Brother Blue.
Beyond. You know, I look for signs beyond the co-signment of man. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking for our relationship in this particular ecosystem that we all exist in. You know, the fact that nature speaks to us and through us. So when I put that post up, people from around the country said it started doing the same thing where they were at. And so I needed
great observation.
That I had known that, you know, the brother had definitely ionized the upper realms And the atmosphere has now responded with its blessings, and water's always a
Thank
sign
you
of
for
food.
sharing that.
Yes,
There's so much hate in the woke community for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. And it's really so insidious. If nothing else, this is an elder who put in 62 consistent years. He is due the level of respect, at least, that the community demands for a Dr. Sebi, for a Dr. Yosef Ben Yaakov. But the community protects, as it should, these great elders, but the community passes out licenses to be profoundly disrespectful of the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan. Now, what you witnessed in the rain that came down after the minister lifted his water, and he called Corona down on Florida, and 11,000 positive cases in one day in Florida. Look, it is an insidious hate for the Nation of Islam that makes one blind to who this man is. I'm like, come on, bro. Let's just keep it real. Let's reason together. See, if we, because you guys, your third eye is open, so you pick up the hints and the signs. And the minister teaches that Allah communicates in hints and signs. So while the 85er needs to see with these two eyes, and will only bear witness, will only recognize what these two eyes see, but Allah communicates through hints and signs. So only the third eye possessors pick up on that, and you pick up on that. So there are many third eye possessors. So we should be able to reason together over who this man is. Not that you should concede my point, my religious point, because I say it, but let's just reason together. And why is it important? It isn't important that one recognizes who Farrakhan is because his cult requires your submission. That ain't what this is about. Recognizing who Farrakhan is important for the purpose of divine guidance. Black people need guidance. So activists and so-called revolutionary Negroes wanted people out in these George Floyd protests, right? People wanted to know where the Muslims, where Farrakhan. Black people needed guidance and were given guidance by the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan. But because we don't recognize, those who don't recognize him for who he is, will hear him say what he says and then do the opposite. And so those protests in some areas proved to be super spreader events. But he told us to stay away, to withdraw to our chamber. That's guidance. So all of us here, the three of us, we got knowledge. Y'all some deep gods. For real, we always been. I've always been impressed on the depth of y'all black God minds. So we got knowledge, but I am not qualified. I don't know how you guys would self-describe, but I am not qualified with all my knowledge to give life and death guidance to black people. My knowledge does not qualify me of that. But black people need that. So black people must turn to not just those of us who got knowledge, but those of us, but the one who can offer life-saving guidance, see the trap and steer us away from it, because the protests were a trap. They were spontaneously generated, but then they were commandeered and manipulated and became a trap.
On multiple levels.
On multiple levels. So I close with that. I enjoyed y'all build, man, and I learned. I learned a lot.
The honor is ours.
By this, that the words that was said about a year ago in that Staples Center, Minister Farrakhan, you know, the whole eulogy, the mind state that Nipsey Hussle represented with the marathon, with being a reformed street soldier, by making intellectualism cool again, by making consciousness cool. You know, he was a catalyst in a sense.
He made black male intellectuality G.
And
that was a powerful
couple, look, coupled with alpha malehood.
That's
right.
Real.
And it was not mistaken for echelon.
That's why I love that, brother.
Yeah. What's the word? Escalon.
That wasn't epsilon. That was true Leo alpha masculinity right there.
Absolutely.
Does he remember what he did? Remember when the Nipsey smack? Remember the victory slap?
Absolutely.
So
long live Nip, man.
Long live Nip. But when like I said, we're connected because I saw you right there on that floor.
Yes,
and
sir.
It was before the minister spoke.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes,
it
sir.
was the beginning of the whole festivity, and that was kind of like, that was a paradigm shift for me and Blue. You know, that was all mystical. That whole experience was spiritual to us. And I see the world a year later where we showing up, we pulling up, we in the building tonight with thousands of people, right? We was in the Staples with thousands that day, but the world is so different a year later now, right? The world, like this man's dream, Nipsey Hussle's dream, like what would Nipsey have done during this times? I can't really think about it. So, but I know that his mind, I know that coupled with, you know, Sadie's mind, coupled with Minister Farrakhan's mind. Remember, this is a collective, but it is about the change. It is about this new day. It is about this new epoch, because all is mental. So for the world to change, it's going to have to change in our minds. We'll never really go back to where we was as a fallen people about 6 months ago. No, I don't ever think that I don't think we go back. Right?
You.
And the prophecies of what Elijah wrote, right? With not just the fall of America, eat to live,
theology of time,
mother
will.
Like we're gonna see the will in a minute. Like that's about to come.
That's a fact.
Like, make no mistake about that.
Yes, sir. That's a fact.
You know, I think we've expired, you know, our eureka moments on this stuff.
Hey,
2020 worked that out.
Reach,
man. I wrote a long post Friday night, right before that Saturday, and you know, because I experienced it in Mount Shasta in 2016. Like, we drove underneath it for damn near 30 minutes. It was miles long. I mean, I stopped. I don't even be sharing this with people because they're not ready. But I told them, you're gonna have to get ready. What I saw was the most profound thing ever, and I had witnesses, so I'm comfortable enough at this point to come forward and speak on it. But when people see what we are conjoined with, you know what I'm saying, and it shatters their mundane beliefs about themselves, and we get this upgrade, and people get ready for galactical travel, and stop thinking about passports going state to state and all this corny stuff that just stopped and ended for a reason, you know, then it's gonna be an acceleration in the quantum. Then you're really gonna be coming looking for information. You know, how do I fast track this overnight? Because I need to catch up. I need to get right. And you see people are feeling that something is coming. Something is coming. You feel me? And it's making people with curved spines get straight. And that's a beautiful thing. The righteous.
A beautiful thing indeed.
Yeah.
I enjoyed my time with you guys.
Likewise, man. It's always a pleasure. It's always an honor. You know, we'll get back up again.
Absolutely.
I want to encourage you to continue the research, continue the science, and continue to do what you know all great scholars do, and that's put it in a book. You know,
belongs to Allah.
Inspire those of us who have not finished our books to finish our books. You know, going all the way back with the Allah team, with the books that y'all been putting out. You know, literature is very important because I might not always get to catch a video. I might not know where you at in your study. I might not know what state you in, but you can always pick up that book.
That's right.
And tap into your mind.
That's right.
So keep doing your thing, King.
You too, Kings.
Yeah, you
appreciate y'all. Love y'all, man.
Love you too, man. You know what I'm talking about? And we're gonna have that convo with KT coming up, and I wanna definitely finish.
I don't know who that. I don't want to leave here.
No. That's our younger
an agreement for some discussion. I don't know who KT is.
That's the purple pill. You know what I mean?
That's our younger brother.
That's our younger brother. He's a scientist.
Okay.
So yeah,
but the science is forward to get on top of this COVID thing. So anybody that we know that we could bring to the table with some expert information, you know, it's time for that. You know, it's time to bring the information forward.
And the minister, Minister Farrakhan made the calling for the for all of the scientists to come forward. Right. And I'm electing KT out of this whole community, you know, to be definitely one of the top candidates. And I'm sure that the people will agree to that, who's familiar with his work. And secondly, I look forward to finishing one day, maybe in Baltimore again, Dr. Wesley.
I do too.
Atlanta or Chicago. I haven't been in the Chi, and they've been asking for us. But I definitely,
we need to put something together then, man.
Yes, that hip hop lecture, because you know the promoter said that the footage is erased. So that's
No, I did not know that.
Yeah,
I was wondering. Are you serious?
I'm so serious. I don't want to get triggered. I need to go. I gotta go lay down.
I have seen it on Facebook Live.
I never got sent the footage.
We never got the footage. Yeah. So I want to do that again. We'll throw it out there.
Let's do it. The weaponization of hip hop. We got to stay on the subject.
No doubt. All right.
Peace to the gods. Love y'all, man.
All right. Peace, family.
Peace.
Thank you, everybody that pulled up. Real quick, your website was
Dr. Wesley .online. You can get my new book, The Pot Plot, Marijuana, Hip Hop, and the Scientific Assault on Black America. And I'm going to say this. Look, I own the marijuana conversation right now.
All my
800 pages, 2,000 footnotes. Impeach the arguments in the documentation, then you take it from me. But until then, we own the marijuana conversation. Pick it up, impeach it. drwesley.online.
That's right. Cheech and Chong El Bay, whoever's out there listening. Cheech and Chong setting rock to Hootie El Bay. I need you to come forward.
Or Cheech and Chong God Allah.
Yeah, but I encourage
Wow.
everybody who smokes to have a copy of that book in your library.
That's right.
It's mandatory at this point. If you are a consumer of marijuana, I feel like it is responsible. You should be
And if
responsible.
you're not a consumer, because I detailed the scientific assault on Black America, the weaponization of our food, the weaponization of the music, the scientific weaponization of the music. It's not just about the lyrics, but it's about the musical frequency is weaponized. So even if you don't smoke weed, we document the scientific assault on Black America. But if you do, whether you smoke it or not, if you argue against the pot plot, and if you argue on behalf of smoking weed, then you need to get it and impeach it. Until then, your word has no probative value.
And for someone in the audience wanted to know if there going to be is there going to be a book or some research on pharmacopoeia, the pills, the opiates, and stuff.
It's in here.
Okay.
This is that book.
Okay.
This is the book. That's what the scientific assault. I go into the opiates. I go into Molly.
Okay. What is your thought on nootropics?
That's new. What's nootropics? I don't know nootropics.
Those are the brain. Those would be considered to be like brain drugs, like the limitless pill.
Oh.
And I mean, it starts with Adderall.
I know Adderall. I know the limitless pill. I'm not up on nootropics. So nootropics are supposed to be the limitless pill.
Nootropics on college campuses in Silicon Valley and other places where they're doing, a lot of work, a lot of.
Are they Adderall based? Are you saying nootropics are
Well,
Adderall based?
no, I'm not saying that they're Adderall based. The Adderall is methamphetamine based, right? So the it would start at Adderall and go up to a whole nother.
Nootropics. I'll look into that. These things come rapid fire, really.
Oh man, please look.
Nootropics are supposed to expand your mind like the limitless pill.
Nootropics are said to aid and assist with computation, similar like when I was talking about with the quantum computer. It's supposed to increase computation. Some of the nootropics are said to even help put people in a flow state and things of that nature.
No, I'm not.
It's synthetic. It's a pharmacopoeia. It's not natural. It's not plant-based. It's in the
you
lab.
already know what I think, even though I didn't know before you educated, you enlightened me. But you asked me what I think.
Somebody said some are plant-based. Well, pardon me.
I'm going to look into it and see if we can trace the satanic source. Thank you for that, FYI. I was not aware.
No doubt. Indeed. Well, with that being said, tapping out. Family, thank everyone for being in the building. Make sure y'all hit up the brother and support him. Hit up that Cash App. We will see you on Thursday, Third Eye Thursday. Love and light. All right?
Love and light. Peace.